Chapter 1728. Manor Master Who, don't you want the lives of your Lonely sect disciples? Fan Qingmu clapped his hand, and a magic weapon that looked like a crutch appeared in his hand. He sneered. Moreover, I have made it clear that if you don't have I's spell, no one can open this Qingwu, the condensed knowledge treasure inside. You can't get it. Who knew that it would have been better if Fan Qingmu didn't say that? As soon as his voice fell, more than a dozen orange-red brilliants flashed from around him. Each brilliance formed a fire arrow and shot towards Fan Qingmu's body at the same time. Go! Fan Qingmu's eyes flashed with a trace of ruthlessness. He released his pressure and filled the entire hall. Then he waved his magic weapon again, and several rotating brilliances came out from the crutch. They shot in different trajectories towards the Lingpei Mountain Villa disciples who had walked to the entrance of the hall and were already alert. They took out their yellow talismans and prepared to defend themselves. Puff puff puff, there were a series of muffled sounds. How could the Lingpei Mountain Villa disciples' yellow talismans be a match for Fan Qingmu's magic weapon? They were easily broken by the brilliance. Moreover, the brilliance that pierced through the yellow talismans was like a sharp sword. It didn't lose its momentum and pierced towards every disciple's body. Kacha kacha, just as the brilliance pierced the disciples' bodies, the brilliance on their bodies flickered and disappeared. Then, there was the sound of the brilliance shattering. The yellow talismans on their bodies couldn't withstand a single blow, and were all pierced by the brilliance. The disciples without the yellow talismans were like chickens waiting to be slaughtered under the pressure of a Foundation establishment cultivator. Their bodies were easily pierced by the brilliance and they didn't have any power to fight back. They all fell into a pool of blood. The disciple who was at the peak of the 12th level of Qi Refining Realm, who was sitting at the head table, just now didn't get up. Although there was some panic on his face, he wasn't as frightened as the surrounding disciples. When he collapsed to the ground, he clapped his hands and a small triangular flag was pinched in his hand. Fan Qingmu killed several disciples of Lingpei Mountain Villa. He glanced around and saw the situation in the hall clearly. However, the dozens of fire arrows that were shot out from the array in the hall had already flown in front of him. He didn't have time to chase after the other Lonely sect disciples. Fan Qingmu sneered. He really didn't understand what Manor Head Who meant. However, since he dared to come to Lingpei Mountain Villa, he naturally had a plan to deal with it. He clapped his hand again, and a ruler-like celestial artifact appeared from his storage bag. As he activated his spiritual power, it quickly flew above his head. Immediately, a yellow brilliance emitted from the ruler. In the blink of an eye, it protected Fan Qingmu's body. At this moment, the fire arrow that was flying towards him had only flown half a foot forward. Fan Qingmu's eyes narrowed as he saw his magic item protecting him. He waved the magic item in his hand once more, and several dozen rays of light spun out to meet the fire arrows. Pa 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 pa. A series of crisp sounds could be heard. Flames flashed around Fan Qingmu like fireworks, but they were also annihilated. Haha, Manor Head Who, if you don't show up, how can you be I's opponent with just the array in this hall? Fan Qingmu laughed heartily. He cast his gaze towards the many disciples in the hall. Under his pressure, everyone, including the 4 disciples from the Imperial Lightning sect, had collapsed to the ground. They looked at him with pale faces, their eyes filled with horror and fear. Although Fan Qingmu's magic item produced a lot of brilliance, it was only an attack after all. In addition to 70% of the fire arrows being destroyed, 30% of the fire arrows leaped out from the gaps in the brilliance and shot straight at his protective light curtain. Pa pa pa, just as Fan Qingmu's gaze was wandering, several fire arrows shot at the light curtain. Without exception, they couldn't break through the protection of the light curtain, and turned into fireworks that fell to the ground. Therefore, Fan Qingmu threw away his last bit of vigilance and sneered. Since Manor Head Who is so heartless, don't blame I for being unrighteous. I will kill all of your descendants in Lingpei Mountain Villa. As he spoke, he waved the magic item in his hand again and again. Many rays of brilliance flashed like sharp swords and shot at the many disciples who collapsed in the hall. Suddenly, screams sounded in the hall. One by one, the lives of the Lonely sect disciples were easily taken by Fan Qingmu. The 4 disciples of Imperial Thunder sect naturally collapsed to the ground and couldn't move. Xiaohua narrowed his eyes and calmly observed. Not only was the cloud-suppressing seal eager to try, but the mighty Vajra celestial body hidden in his body could come out at any time to resist Fan Qingmu's pressure. Fortunately, Fan Qingmu knew the origin of Xiaohua and the others. He seemed to have a lingering fear, or perhaps he had other plans. When he waved his magic item, he missed the 4 of them. Since that was the case, Xiaohua didn't want to create more trouble, and didn't want to get involved in the grudge between the Lanli sect and Fan Qingmu. He only allowed Fan Qingmu to kill the disciples of the Lanli sect while he carefully took precautions. However, just when Fan Qingmu took control of the entire hall, another change suddenly occurred. Most of the fire arrows that were shot at Fan Qingmu's protective light curtain fell to the ground. It was obvious that their power was not enough to break through the defense of the light curtain. However, just when Fan Qingmu shifted his attention away and focused on killing the disciples of the Lanli sect, the moment one of the fire arrows touched the light curtain, the flame on the fire arrow disappeared and revealed its original form. It was actually a slender magic item in the shape of a rhombus. The sharp tip of the rhombus magic item had a faint blue light flickering. Moreover, there were also faint runes flowing around the magic item. Puff! The moment the flames disappeared, the rhombus-shaped celestial artifact suddenly raised its head like an awakened green python and rushed towards the light screen. The light screen that had blocked the numerous fire arrows only lasted for a moment, before the rhombus-shaped celestial artifact's blue tip corroded a hole in it. The rhombus-shaped celestial artifact easily flew through the hole and pierced straight towards Fan Qingmu's heart. Fan Qingmu was alarmed when he sensed that the light screen of his Dharma artifact had been broken. He quickly formed a seal with his free hand and sent a thunder palm toward the rhombus-shaped Dharma artifact. Crack! The thunder palm struck, but the rhombus-shaped Dharma artifact seemed to have a mind of its own. With a slight twist, it bypassed the thunder palm. This is bad. Only then did Fan Qingmu realize that something was wrong. He hurriedly slapped his shoulder, and a light green brilliance rapidly spread from his shoulder to his entire body. Unfortunately, although the brilliance was fast, it was not as fast as the rhombus-shaped artifact. As soon as the light green brilliance reached Fan Qingmu's shoulder, the artifact's sharp point pierced his heart. In an instant, the brilliance from his heart shone brightly. It seemed to be Fan Qingmu's protective defense. Unfortunately, this defense was still no match for the strong poison of the magic item. It was quickly corroded and flaws appeared. Chapter 1729. Fan Qingmu only had time to let out a blood-curdling scream before a pitch-black qi emerged from his heart and rapidly spread to every part of his body. Following the emergence of this black qi, pieces of rotten flesh accompanied by a nauseating smell fell from Fan Qingmu's body. Fan Qingmu's corpse was still in a standing posture. When the pieces of flesh fell to the ground in a very strange manner, it did not take long for the pale white bones to be revealed. Highly toxic Xiaohua in the distance immediately narrowed his eyes and thought with a chill in his heart. He then looked at the door of the hall. Fan Qingmu is dead. His oppressive aura immediately disappeared. The group of Bluely sect disciples immediately became lively. Their faces were filled with surprise. Many of them shouted, "Manor Master Hu, quickly open the array!" In the hall, the only remaining disciple of Ling Pei Mountain Villa quietly put away the triangular flag. He stood up coldly and looked at the door of the hall. He was about to speak. At this moment, there was a schwa sound and the door of the hall opened. A black object was thrown in and landed on the table with a muffled dang. In the hall, the disciples were all cultivators. How could they not understand? That black object was none other than the head of Ling Pei Mountain Villa's Manor Master Hu. Manor Master Hu? Many disciples cried out in alarm. Their faces were filled with fear. Unlike the other disciples, the Ling Pei Mountain Villa's disciple had a cruel smile on his face. However, when he heard the voice outside the hall, an extremely shocked expression appeared on his face. "Hee, let me see how much effort Hu Ming has put in the past 10 years, and how many disciples of the Lanli sect he has won over." A sharp voice sounded. Although it sounded like a man's voice, there was a hint of femininity in the voice. Senior Uncle In. The voice was obviously very special. The disciples could immediately recognize it even when they were frightened. Following the shouts of the disciples, a dozen or so cultivators slowly walked in from the entrance of the hall. The one in front was an early-stage foundation establishment cultivator. He wasn't very tall, but his body was short and his face was thin. However, his pale face was very strange. He didn't look like a normal cultivator who was full of vitality. Behind Martial Uncle Ian, there were a dozen or so disciples in the 11th layer of Qi refining. However, apart from the few in front who were acting normally, the rest of the disciples looked dispirited. They were obviously injured. Moreover, judging by their dejected expressions, they should be the disciples of Master Hu of Lingpei Mountain Village. As expected, the disciple who had just stood up had a look of surprise on his face. He placed his hand in his bosom and stood there quietly, looking at Martial Uncle Ian. Martial Uncle Ian walked to the top of the hall and swept his gaze across the hall. After his gaze swept past the faces of Xiao Hua and the others, it stopped at a few disciples among the crowd. You all are really bold. You all know that I have a grudge with Hu Ming, yet you dared to hide it from me and join him. As soon as Martial Uncle Ian spoke, the disciples with pale faces and trembling bodies quickly stepped forward. With a plop, they knelt on the ground and shouted, Martial Uncle Ian, we didn't join Hu Ming. It was Hu Ming who said that there was a treasure today and invited us to come and try it out. We have absolutely no intention of betraying Martial Uncle Ian. Martial Uncle Ian sneered and said, Humph, if it was so simple, would I have scolded you all? If you all only had such selfish motives, why didn't you inform me? Why didn't you inform my direct disciple? Senior Uncle Ian sneered. A disciple boldly said, reporting to Martial Uncle, Hu Ming only said to keep it a secret. He didn't want us to tell anyone else. Senior Uncle Yin's expression didn't change. He waved his hand, and a beam of light shot out. It seemed to be an enchanted item, but it also seemed to be a yellow talisman. The disciple sensed it, and his body twitched as if he wanted to resist. But Senior Uncle Yin's pressure completely suppressed him, making it impossible for him to move. A dark green light flashed, and a miserable scream rang out. The disciple's body also began to turn black, and pieces of rotting flesh began to fall from his body. The other disciples immediately shouted, Martial Uncle, please spare us. Humph, you think you're the only one who knows? Since there are so many disciples gathered in the hall, how could you be the only one who knows? Martial Uncle Ian sneered at the skeleton that gradually appeared. Then he looked at the disciples who were kneeling on the ground with blood on their foreheads and said, Since you knew, why did you do it in the first place? Back then, if any of you knew, you could have just sent me a message. Martial Uncle, please spare us. The disciples immediately turned pale with fright. Knowing that there was no hope, they unconsciously began to resist. Go kill them. Martial Uncle Ian waved his hand and ordered. At the same time, the pressure of the foundation establishment stage pressed down. Yes, we understand. Several disciples behind Senior Uncle Ian replied. Then, they clapped their hands and took out several yellow talismans. What about Qingyu? What about the other disciples? Master, please give us your orders. When a few disciples walked a few steps forward, the fireball talismans in their hands shot out and landed on the bodies of those disciples. Several heart-wrenching screams sounded in everyone's ears, causing everyone's hearts to tremble in fear. A skinny disciple beside Martial Uncle Ian asked in a low voice. In an instant, everyone pricked up their ears and looked at Martial Uncle Ian with pitiful eyes. The other disciples? Martial Uncle Ian glanced at them coldly and said in a sharp voice, They didn't swear a blood oath to be loyal to me. We'll make a blood oath right now. All the disciples shouted when they heard this. It seemed like they had found an opportunity to live. Qingyu? There's no need for him to live. Martial Uncle Ian looked at the disciple who had been standing in front of the table and sneered. How can I not know what he's thinking? With that, Martial Uncle Ian raised his hand and flicked his middle finger. Seeing a green dot of light shoot out from Martial Uncle Ian's hand, Qingyu's expression changed greatly. He didn't dare to hesitate and immediately took out the scarlet triangular flag from before. Martial Uncle Ian was stunned when he saw the flag. An indescribable expression flashed through his eyes, and his finger that was about to shoot out a second light unconsciously paused. Qingyu took out the small flag and didn't stop. He activated his magic power, and a few strands of black light shot out from the small flag, shooting straight towards the walls of the hall. Uncle Yin's eyes were filled with interest as he watched the strands of black light land on the walls of the hall. He didn't raise his hand to stop them. As the black light landed on the walls of the hall, the black light flashed from the walls. As the light flickered, the restrictions in the hall weakened. Strands of black gas gradually squeezed out from the restrictions and quickly spread to cover the entire hall. Quick now! In the distance, Xiaohua shouted and slapped his hand. A strand of Samadhi True Fire appeared in his hand. Xiaohua waved his hand, and the Samadhi True Fire appeared in his hand. With a palm strike, he slapped the nearest wall. The restriction on the wall had already been diluted by the black gas. After being burned by the Samadhi True Fire, a small hole had already appeared in the restriction. At this moment, the restrictions on the four walls were replaced by the old ones. Xiaohua's plan was indeed effective. Go! At this time, Qian Diheng also shouted. With a wave of his hand, his halberd immediately flew into the air. A tricolored brilliance emerged from the tip of the halberd, turning into 3 balls of light the size of a duck egg. They rushed towards the place where the Samadhi True Fire was burning. Rumble! With 3 loud explosions, a hole the size of a person was blasted out of the restriction on the wall. I'll go first. Qian Diheng urged his spiritual power, and didn't dare to hesitate. He flew towards the human-sized hole. Ming Hao was the first to fly out. Although Xiaohua was the closest to the wall, he didn't move. He just stared at Qingyu while his heart churned endlessly. Although he hadn't seen this scarlet triangular flag before, he wasn't unfamiliar with the black cheese restriction. It was very similar to the demonic formation he'd seen on the Thousand-Zhang Peak. Moreover, he could also see the difference within the churning black qi. This was clearly demonic qi. Demonic cultivator. Xiaohua immediately judged it. However, looking at Qingyu, he didn't seem to be possessed by the blood shadow. He was no different from an ordinary human cultivator. Suddenly, Xiaohua frowned and thought of what Xiao Xianrui said that day. Heavenly Demon Sect? Is this disciple the Heavenly Demon Sect that senior sister mentioned? At the same time, Xiaohua also diverted some attention to look at Martial Uncle Yin. The cloud-suppressing seal in his body was ready to attack at any time. However, Martial Uncle Yin didn't seem to see what Xiaohua and the others were doing. He only looked at Qingyu, as if Qingyu, a disciple of Lingpei Mountain Villa at the 12th level of Qi refining, was more important than Xiaohua and the other 4 disciples of the Imperial Thunder Sect. Watch me. Seeing that after Qian Diheng had escaped, the black qi on the wall had become denser and denser, gradually covering up the hole, Kuan Fian coldly shouted. The thunder trapping bead in his hand also left his hand. Before the thunder trapping bead flew to the wall, it had already enlarged to the size of a bowl. Countless tiny lightning bolts were released from the thunder trapping bead, striking the black qi with a crackling sound. That lightning glow was indeed the nemesis of the black qi. Countless black qi was annihilated by the lightning glow. Instantly, another hole that was twice the size of the previous one appeared. I'm going, Kuan Fian said coquettishly and flew into the hole. Ouch! At this moment, Qingyu's attention was diverted from Martial Uncle Yin. Seeing that 2 of the Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples had already escaped, he became anxious and spat out a mouthful of blood essence onto the small triangular flag. The small triangular flag flashed with black light, and even more black light with traces of blood flew out from the flag. It repeatedly shot into the 4 walls of the hall. Thus, even more dense black qi crazily surged out from the walls. In the blink of an eye, the hole that Kuan Fian had escaped from was filled up. Chapter 1730. Go. The remaining Sun Shu's expression changed slightly. He glanced at Xiaohua, and the thunder lock in his hand flew into the air like Kuan Fian's thunder-trapping bead. Dozens of tiny lightning bolts also shot towards the hole. With the same crackling sounds, the thick black smoke was hit by the lightning bolts, and the hole appeared again, once again expanding to the size of a person. I'll go first? Sun Shu's voice was clearly different from the previous 2. It seemed to carry a questioning tone, and he looked at Xiaohua with concern. When Xiaohua nodded, Sun Shu's figure flew into the air, about to enter the hole. Unfortunately, at this moment, a low voice rang out. Useless things, 2 of you have already escaped. As the voice spoke, a human figure appeared at the entrance of the hall. This person wore an ordinary Taoist robe and held a small triangular flag in his hand. However, this flag was twice as big as Qing Yu's. Moreover, the scarlet color was even deeper, as if it had been smeared with a thick layer of blood. Go! That person waved the small flag in his hand, and a few rays of black and red light shot towards the wall. Those rays of light were like water droplets that were thrown into a pot of oil. With a series of crackling sounds, more black gas gushed out from the wall at an extremely fast speed, firmly blocking the hole that Sun Shu had just created. This is bad. He thought to himself, this is bad. He slapped his forehead, wanting to take out the cloud suppressing seal. However, just as he raised his hand into the air, his heart skipped a beat, and he immediately stopped. He turned his head to look at Sun Shu's thunder lock, and saw that it couldn't break through the black smoke. He then looked at Martial Uncle Yin and the person who came later. Chang Huan? Xiao Hua recognized that person's face. His eyes unconsciously narrowed, and the corner of his mouth revealed a trace of a cold smile. This senior martial brother Chang was actually the Chang Huan that Xiao Hua had met in 100 Herb Gate when he was still an apprentice disciple of Shang Huaming. Thus, Xiao Hua felt even more certain that he had made the right choice. This guy, how could he also have this kind of flag? And it looks even more powerful than Qing Yu's flag. This guy, isn't he a loose cultivator? Could it be that he also joined some heavenly demon sect? Xiao Hua thought to himself. He turned around to look at Sun Shu, who had landed beside him, and nodded slightly. And Sun Shu was vexed in his heart, but when he saw Xiao Hua's calm gaze, his heart relaxed for no reason. That's right, this junior brother of his still hasn't taken out his most powerful cloud-suppressing seal. What is there to be afraid of? Moreover, the martial Uncle Yin who came first and the cultivator who came later were obviously not from the same group. If the sandpiper and the clam fought, the fisherman would benefit from it. Xiao Hua and I definitely have a chance. Therefore, Sun Shu placed the lightning lock on top of her head. A misty brilliance sprinkled down from the lightning lock, protecting her and Xiao Hua. When Chang Huan saw that Sun Shu was blocked, he no longer paid attention to him. His gaze swept past Xiao Hua, as if he didn't recognize him at all. He turned his head to look at martial Uncle Yin. Yin Meng, why did you come to Ling Pei Mountain Villa instead of staying in Limo Ridge? Then he looked at the black head of Hu Ming on the table and laughed. So you are after the foundation of Pei Mountain Villa? What a coincidence, it's actually the same as my heavenly demon sect's plan. Ha ha ha, Yin Meng raised his head and laughed loudly. This old man has long heard of the heavenly demon sect's reputation, but I didn't expect to meet it today. However, your heavenly demon sect really disappoints this old man. Your disciple's cultivation isn't very high, but your tone isn't small. You, a junior in the 12th layer of Qi refining, actually dares to criticize this old man, a foundation establishment cultivator? Could it be this old man can't kill you? And it's no wonder. You seem to be that extremely notorious loose cultivator, Chang Huan. Yin Meng looked as if he suddenly realized something and sneered. Before, you were just a minor character in the 9th layer of Qi refining. Now that you have cultivated to the late stage of the 12th layer of Qi refining, you think you are amazing? You really don't know that there is always someone better than you. Alas, criticizing this old man in front of this old man, you are simply a jumping clown. Fine, I'll let you see the power of a foundation establishment cultivator. As soon as Yin Meng's voice fell, he didn't take out any magic tool. He only flicked his right hand, his 5 fingers like playing a pipa, drawing a few afterimages in the air. In an instant, more than 10 sparks of fire, emitting a bewitching light, enveloped Chang Huan from top to bottom. Ha ha ha, you are just a foundation establishment cultivator. What is there to be proud of? Although Chang Huan's mouth spoke arrogantly, he didn't dare to be negligent. He waved the triangular formation flag, and a thick blood-black fog gushed out from the roof above his head, blocking the 10 sparks of fire. Pa 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 pa. More than 10 consecutive sounds rang out. The sound was very dull, and the originally thick blood fog was instantly blown apart. However, Even though the blood fog was stretched out very long and was blown away by the explosions, there wasn't a single spark of blood fog. A Foundation establishment cultivator is only SSO. Chang Huan's originally somewhat apprehensive mood immediately became excited, and his eyes flashed with a greedy light. His gaze was on the storage pouch at Yinmeng's waist. Should I go up and help? In the distance, Xiaohua saw Chang Huan's gaze and felt annoyed. He couldn't help but think. As he thought this, he turned his head to look at Sun Shu. At this time, Sun Shu was very calm and narrowed his eyes. Feeling Xiaohua's gaze, Sun Shu glanced at Xiaohua and whispered, "These two cultivators aren't anything good. No matter who wins, both of our lives won't be guaranteed. Let's wait for both of them to be injured. Then you and I will attack together." A senior sister says. Xiaohua nodded. Looking again, Yinmeng's face also revealed shock. He clapped his hand, and a 3-inch long rhombus-shaped magic tool like a flying sword floated in his palm. It was precisely the magic tool he used to kill Fan Qingmu just now, the Jade-Rise shuttle. How can you measure the divine abilities of a Foundation establishment cultivator? A trace of a smile appeared on Yinmeng's face. Under the urging of his magic power, the Jade-Rise shuttle suddenly expanded, and the green at the tip became even more dazzling. In my heavenly demon sex blood formation, even a Foundation establishment cultivator will be trampled under my feet, Chang Huan arrogantly said. Then he looked at Qing Yu and cursed. 2 Imperial Thunder Sect disciples have already escaped, yet you still want to let the other disciples go? Quickly, kill all of Yinmeng's disciples. Yes, disciple understands. Qing Yu's expression had already changed a few times as he stood there. He clearly understood the stakes involved. When he heard Chang Huan's instructions, a ferocious expression appeared on his face. He waved the small flag in his hand. Immediately, the blood fog that surged out from the walls split apart and aggressively charged towards the disciples beside Yinmeng. When Yinmeng's disciples saw this, they didn't dare to be negligent. Several of them clapped their hands, and several fireball talismans, ice talismans, and other talismans shot out in succession. Unexpectedly, these powerful yellow talismans had already entered the blood mist and immediately lost their power. If they weren't corroded by the blood mist and turned into talismans, then they would explode and be covered by the blood mist. They couldn't harm anyone at all. Quick magical artifacts. The disciples immediately came to their senses and cried out in alarm, each of them taking out their magical artifacts. However, they were only Qi condensation disciples, so how many of them had magic tools? Even more disciples panicked and took out defensive yellow talismans, such as Vajra talismans and Iron Cloak talismans, and hurriedly used them on themselves. Chapter 1731. Who would have thought that the defensive light barriers that usually looked extremely sturdy, which couldn't even be broken by ordinary fireball talismans, would be so fragile in the face of the blood-black mist? As soon as the mist came into contact with the light barriers, it immediately emitted a faint zhi sound. The light barriers were corroded to form an extremely small flaw, and as the mist surged in, the flaw became even larger. In just a few blinks of an eye, the defensive light barriers of the numerous disciples were completely corroded, and the mist was about to corrode their bodies. So powerful. The numerous disciples were greatly shocked. The yellow talismans in their hands continuously shot out, thickening the defensive light barriers again and again, wanting to stop the mist's corrosion. However, although there were many yellow talismans, they couldn't delay the mist's corrosion in the slightest. The brilliance of the numerous disciples flickered. In the end, when the yellow talismans were used up, it was time for them to die. Meanwhile, Yinmeng summoned the Jade Hive shuttle, and a trace of coldness flashed through his eyes. He formed a seal with his hand and pointed his finger. Go! The Jade Hive shuttle drew a faint arc in the air and pierced towards Chang Huan. Chang Huan didn't panic, nor did he take out a magic tool. He only shook the formation flag in his hand again, and the already thin mist from before thickened again, once again blocking the Jade Hive shuttle. This is a bit troublesome. Xiaohua watched from afar, his brows tightly knitted. When he first saw Chang Huan had just reached the 9th layer of the Qi refinement realm. In these past few years, Chang Huan had actually advanced to the 12th layer of the Qi refinement realm. It was very obvious that his cultivation had advanced by leaps and bounds after he joined the Heavenly Demon Sect. The Heavenly Demon Sect was clearly a devil cultivator. Xiaohua had never heard of it before, so it was very likely that it had only appeared in recent years. If it hadn't just been established, then it had always been secretly developing. Looking at Chang Huan's technique again, aside from using formation flags and borrowing the power of the hall's formation to attack Yin Meng, he didn't reveal any devil cultivator techniques. Moreover, just this devil formation alone could trap a foundation establishment cultivator, which truly shocked Xiaohua. Just as Xiaohua was pondering, the Jade Hive shuttle had already rushed into the mist. At the very beginning, Xiaohua could still see the Jade Hive shuttle flickering with blue light, and the mist churning like boiling water. However, in a few breaths of time, everything became tranquil again, and the Jade Hive had already condensed into the mist. Ah! Yin Meng turned pale with fright. She conjured a Dharma seal and hurriedly tried to retrieve the Jade Tower shuttle. However, when the Dharma seal struck the fog, it was like a stone falling into water. She could only feel the Dharma artifact's response, but she was unable to retrieve it. Go, Chang Huan sneered. This time, he no longer waved the flag. Instead, he chanted and his hands began to form seals. As the seals formed, Chang Huan's face gradually turned black, and his eyes became bloodshot. When the seals formed, Chang Huan shouted and hit the fog in front of him. Dozens of black gas condensed into the shape of sharp swords and flew toward Yin Meng. As the black gas flew, there was a faint ghostly howl. Not good. Seeing this, Yin Meng's expression also changed. She hurriedly clapped her hands, and a ring-shaped ball flew into the air. It seemed to be a defensive artifact. The defensive green brilliance poured down from the top of her head, protecting Yin Meng's body. Chang Huan saw that the black gas condensed into black swords were about to pierce Yin Meng's body. How could he let Yin Meng cast the spell successfully? A ruthless look flashed in his eyes. He opened his mouth and spat a mouthful of blood essence into the black gas in front of him. The black gas rapidly surged a few times, and the dozens of black gas moved twice as fast as before. Go! Yin Meng loosened his hand. Like the previous aura refining disciples, he shot out many defensive yellow talismans. Yin Meng's yellow talismans were naturally high level. Although the ice and other brilliances they produced couldn't last long in front of the black gas, they could still block the black gas for a moment. Just this moment alone, the brilliance of the ring-shaped artifact could protect Yin Meng. Unfortunately, just as a hint of joy flashed in Yin Meng's eyes, the two black gas between his two sides suddenly became thicker. There were several faint bloodshot threads swimming in it. In the blink of an eye, the black gas pierced through the defensive brilliance that had just been produced and pierced into Yin Meng's Taoist robe. Ah, you. A resentful voice appeared in Yin Meng's eyes. It was only now that he realized that Chang Huan's blood essence had only stimulated these two black gas. The other streams were just a cover. The black gas was also very powerful. As soon as it pierced into Yin Meng's body, it immediately turned into black threads like swimming snakes. They followed Yin Meng's blood vessels and spread towards his vital points. Moreover, wherever the black threads passed, his skin would turn pitch black. Yin Meng clenched his teeth. Without making any hand seals, he waved his hand and took out a jade bottle from his storage pouch. He crushed the jade bottle and swallowed the medicinal pill inside without even looking at it. At the same time Yin Meng swallowed the medicinal pill, the dozens of black gas that had been blocked by the defensive yellow talismans also pierced his body. In an instant, Yin Meng's entire body was shrouded in black gas. With a thump, Yin Meng's body unexpectedly fell to the ground, no longer moving. Ah! A foundation-building cultivator was killed just like that? Xiaohua looked on with a dumbfounded expression. Chang Huan also seemed to not dare to believe it. However, Chang Huan immediately laughed. A foundation-building cultivator is nothing more than this. As he spoke, he coldly looked at the Lanli sect disciples who were struggling in the black gas. His gaze fell on Xiaohua and Sun Shu. When he saw Xiaohua, he was slightly taken aback, but he immediately ignored him and said to Sun Shu with a smile, "The disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect are indeed worthy of their reputation. This poor Daoist was only a moment late, and 2 people escaped. However, fortunately, fellow Sun is not among them. Otherwise, wouldn't I's arrangements be in vain? Me? Sun Shu looked at Chang Huan in a daze and asked curiously. This poor Daoist has never had any dealings with the Heavenly Devil sect, nor do I know any devil cultivators. May I know why fellow Daoist Chang is making such a big fuss? Hee, fellow Sun doesn't need to know about this. Chang Huan smiled and said, when I capture fellow Sun and see that person, you will know for yourself. You're courting death. How could Sun Shu ask again? He pointed his finger. The lightning lock that had been protecting him and Xiaohua just now emitted a gorgeous brilliance. A flash of lightning flashed and struck towards Chang Huan. Kacha, a few sounds. The lightning split the black gas in front of Chang Huan into several strands. However, after the lightning disappeared, the black gas gathered together again. It was just that the color was a little lighter. Haha, even a Foundation Establishment cultivator is not the opponent of this blood array. You, a chi refining cultivator, can turn the sky upside down? Chang Huan laughed and waved the small flag in his hand again. A lot of black gas surged out from the 4 walls of the hall. Not only did it protect Chang Huan, but it also drowned the entire hall. Although this devil chi isn't as powerful as the formation set up by the devil cultivator on the Thousand-Zhang Peak, I'm afraid ordinary chi refining cultivators are also powerless against it. Xiaohua inwardly thought. Even Li Zongbao, who is at the great circle of chi refining, can't break it. It seems that I can only use the cloud suppressing seal, or the devil spear tip. Moreover, this Chang Huan, he had a grudge with this young master before. Since we met today, how can I let him escape? Xiaohua's current cultivation was close to the middle stage of Foundation establishment. Although he was trapped in the blood array, because he had already seen an even more powerful blood array before, he did not have the slightest trace of panic in his heart. When he saw that Sun Shu's lightning lock attack was ineffective, he clapped his hand and the white dust flew out from the space. It flew into the air and sprinkled a layer of yellow light that covered him and Sun Shu. Then he shouted, Chang Huan, do you know this young master? You. At this moment, Chang Huan was waving the small flag to attack the black gas. Hearing Xiaohua's words, he glanced at Xiaohua, narrowed his eyes and said with a smile, I don't care who you are. You're just a disciple of the Imperial Thunder Sect. Even if I've seen you before and have some grudges with you, I will absolutely not let you live. Don't try to worm your way into being friends with me. However, a trace of doubt flashed through his eyes. Remember this well. This young master's name is Xiaohua. Don't go to the netherworld without knowing this young master's name. Xiaohua sneered and said loudly, Xiaohua. Chang Huan was slightly stunned. But then the appearance of the first layer of chi refinement from several years ago merged with the appearance of the 12th layer of chi refinement in front of him. Ah, it's you? Chang Huan was shocked. At this moment, the corner of Xiaohua's mouth rose. He slapped his forehead, and the cloud-suppressing seal flew out from his mouth. This cloud-suppressing seal was, after all, a magical treasure. As soon as it flew out, its aura was terrifying. Streams of heaven and earth spirit chi were attracted by the cloud-suppressing seal, and the bronze brilliance pushed away the black gas around 10 feet around it, creating a large empty space. Ah, magic treasure? Chang Huan was shocked and at the same time, his eyes flashed with greed. His somewhat red eyes swept over Xiaohua and said with a smile, I didn't expect you to enter the Imperial Thunder Sect and be able to obtain this magic treasure. What a pity, you didn't die in my hands last time. Today you still can't escape the fate of that day. Then he waved the small flag left and right. Clouds like black lotuses formed around the small flag. Under the urging of Chang Huan's magic power, they surged towards the cloud-suppressing seal. This young master wants to see who will take whose life. Xiaohua sneered. He urged the magic power in his hand and poured it into the cloud-suppressing seal. Under Xiaohua's urging, the cloud-suppressing seal had already become 3 feet in size. Then it slowly flipped over. The red and yellow brilliance at the bottom of the cloud-suppressing seal was aimed at Chang Huan. Go! Xiaohua pointed his finger. The cloud-suppressing seal emitted a deafening buzzing sound and smashed towards Chang Huan. Ah! The boundless power of karma appeared on the cloud-suppressing seal, making Chang Huan feel like he couldn't dodge, or even do anything. After all, when Chang Huan was a rogue cultivator, he did countless outrageous things and had a lot of karma on him. This kind of karma was his nemesis. What kind of magic treasure is this? In his panic, Chang Huan waved the small flag again and again. In the end, he opened his mouth again without hesitation and spat out 3 mouthfuls of blood essence onto the small flag. Instantly, tens of small black lotuses with faint red threads on all sides flew out from where the small flag was waved and circled below the cloud-suppressing seal, wanting to hold it up. Chapter 1732. Below the cloud-suppressing seal, there were dozens of small black lotuses spiraling around, trying their best to stop the cloud-suppressing seal. However, the cloud-suppressing seal was still descending at a seemingly slow speed. Under the pressure of the magic treasure, the numerous black lotuses were shattered one by one, dissipating into wisps of black gas, and then disappearing. Run, seeing that the small flag couldn't stop the cloud-suppressing seal's descent, and that the cloud-suppressing seal had locked onto him, Chang Huan immediately made a decision. He clenched his teeth and tried his best to suppress the fear in his heart. He waved the small flag in his hand again. While the black gas was surrounding him, dozens of flying swords condensed from the black gas stabbed toward Xiaohua and Sun Shu just like before. "Senior Sister Sun, be careful," Xiaohua shouted loudly. The black dust above his head shone brightly, thickening the light barrier a bit. Sun Shu did the same. Several bolts of lightning flashed from the thunder lock, scattering to her left and right, blocking the black gas outside. "Go!" Xiaohua waved his hand. The black iron needles had already flown out while the black gas was churning. While dodging the black gas, they pierced towards Chang Huan through the gaps. Chang Huan's hands struggled to form a strange seal. A layer of black gas entrenched under his feet, lifting him up and flying towards the entrance of the hall. "Still want to run?" Xiaohua sneered. His figure flew up and quickly chased after him. At the same time, the cloud-suppressing seal swayed slightly, chasing after him as it descended. As a magic treasure, the cloud-suppressing seal's power was incomparable. However, it also had a shortcoming, and that was that it consumed a lot of magic power. Moreover, when controlling it, it was like a young man wielding a weapon that didn't match his strength. His movements were very slow. Although Xiaohua saw Chang Huan escape, the cloud-suppressing seal couldn't completely descend. Fortunately, although Chang Huan released a lot of black qi, which were like sharp swords, they were all suppressed and dissipated under the might of the cloud-suppressing seal. Not many of the flying sword-like black qi were able to reach Xiaohua. Even the black qi in the hall was completely washed away when Xiaohua flew up. This black gas can actually restrict divine sense. Xiaohua's vision was blocked by the black gas. He unconsciously released his divine sense and shockingly discovered something strange. Oh no, this black iron needle doesn't seem to be of much use. Just as he discovered that his spiritual sense was blocked by the black qi, Xiaohua discovered that the black iron needles he secretly released also seemed to have sunk into sticky water within the black qi. Their flight was greatly restricted, and they were far from being able to display their unfathomable speed. "I'm afraid we'll have to use a magic weapon." Xiaohua watched as Chang Huan was shrouded in black qi and moved towards the wall of the hall. He couldn't help but think to himself, this Chang Huan is actually harder to deal with than a foundation establishment cultivator with the help of the blood formation. This is the only way." Xiaohua's eyes flashed with a trace of sternness. His figure suddenly sped up as he shouted, "Where are you going? Have a taste of my needle." Then he used his divine telekinesis to activate the black iron needle and pierced it towards the black qi surrounding Chang Huan. You dare to use this thing to embarrass yourself?" It seemed that Chang Huan was already close to the wall. Although the cloud-suppressing seal had fallen, he was still confident that he could escape in this short period of time. Only then did he seriously tremble in his heart and encourage himself. Sure enough, Xiaohua felt that when his black iron needle pierced into the black qi, it was like piercing into an extremely elastic silk. It couldn't penetrate even half an inch further. However, at this moment, his figure had already closed in on Chang Huan. He was only a few feet away, Haha, then have another taste of my fist. As Xiaohua spoke, he once again raised his right hand and punched. Chang Huan was very puzzled. He didn't understand why Xiaohua didn't use more strength to activate the cloud suppressing seal, and instead used his fist to attack. Although he knew that the black qi surrounding his body was extremely poisonous, he still activated even more black qi to block in front of Xiaohua's fist. Seeing that Xiaohua's fist was about to touch the black qi, Chang Huan's eyes also lit up. He eagerly wanted to see Xiaohua's arm being corroded by the black qi. However, at this moment, Xiaohua's figure suddenly twisted. His left hand streaked across the air, leaving behind an afterimage. A pitch-black stick appeared from his left hand, and directly pierced into the black qi surrounding Chang Huan's back. A heart-wrenching scream sounded. Black blood splashed into the black qi as Xiaohua retracted his hand. With a sizzling sound, the black blood immediately boiled and disappeared without a trace. The demonic spear in Xiaohua's hand actually ignored the corrosion of the black qi, ignored Chang Huan's defense, and directly pierced into his heart. Demonic weapon. Chang Huan's dead fish-like eyes flashed with an inconceivable expression as he muttered. At the same time, the black qi quickly seeped into Chang Huan's body as the demonic spear was pulled out. An incomparably fishy smell quickly spread out from Chang Huan's body. Pieces of rotten flesh also began to fall. Humph! Xiaohua let out a cold snort from his nose. He pointed his finger, and the cloud-suppressing seal that had already landed on top of Chang Huan's head slightly tilted. It didn't stop and continued to fly forward. In front of the cloud-suppressing seal was a wall of the hall. With a loud pung sound, the entire hall seemed to shake. On the wall that was surging with black qi, a gap was smashed open by the cloud-suppressing seal. The black brilliance in this gap was annihilated, creating a hole the size of a person. The black qi around this hole rolled and slowly healed. Senior Sun, quickly leave. Xiaohua didn't even turn his head. He grabbed with his hand and the cloud-suppressing seal once again flew out from the wall, preparing for a second impact. Sun Shu was originally behind Xiaohua. Seeing this scene, her heart was happy. She looked deeply at Xiaohua with her beautiful eyes and said, "Junior brother, be careful." Afterwards, without saying anything else, the Lei Suo flew in front of her. She herself used the flight technique to follow behind the Lei Suo and escape from the gradually shrinking hole. Just as Sun Shu's figure disappeared, the hole had already healed. Go! Xiaohua's expression didn't change. While urging his Fa Li, the cloud-suppressing seal once again shot out. It was still at the place where the hole was just now. Useless thing. An extremely magnetic voice suddenly resounded through the entire hall. At the same time, a tall cultivator appeared from the black qi in the hall. This cultivator's cultivation was at the middle foundation establishment stage. He didn't wear any camouflage robes and didn't hide his cultivation. On his incomparably handsome face, a pair of eye-catching eyes flashed with an indescribable divine light. He was looking at Xiaohua, who was casting his technique with astonishment. This person was the heavenly demon sex Zhang Qingxiao. As soon as Zhang Qingxiao appeared, he immediately grabbed with his hand. The small black flag in Chang Huan's hand suddenly flew into his hand. Following Zhang Qingxiao's wave of the formation flag, a black water-like liquid seeped into the wall. A middle foundation establishment stage cultivator. Seeing this, Xiaohua turned pale with fright. The Fa Li in his body urged. The cloud-suppressing seal hummed and smashed into the black qi in the wall, even more quickly and violently. Chapter 1733. Seeing the cloud-suppressing seal smash into the wall of the hall and disperse the black qi, Xiaohua's heart fell to the bottom of the valley and became ice cold. Under the black qi, the liquid that looked like black water had already covered the entire wall. The black brilliance that had been destroyed by the cloud-suppressing seal flashed again and again. Although it had dimmed a lot, it was not extinguished. Xiaohua's most powerful magic treasure, the cloud-suppressing seal, couldn't break Zhang Qingxiao's blood array. Seeing that the suppressing cloud seal's attack was ineffective, Xiaohua hurriedly grabbed with his hand. The suppressing cloud seal flipped a few times in the air and flew to the top of Xiaohua's head. A cluster of ancient bronze brilliance with red threads firmly protected Xiaohua. Zhang Qingxiao held the array flag in his hand and looked at Xiaohua with interest. He didn't have any intention of attacking. After the cloud-suppressing seal protected his body, Xiaohua was relieved. He looked at the unfamiliar cultivator in front of him and bowed. Junior is Xiaohua of the Imperial Thunder Sect. How should I address Senior? And I know you're called Xiaohua, Zhang Qingxiao said with a smile. It was hard to say whether it was a sneer or a smile. Oh, Senior knows Junior? Xiaohua was surprised. Zhang Qingxiao nodded. I know you, but you don't know me. Zhang Qingxiao spoke the words you and me very smoothly, causing others to not feel that it was a senior speaking to a junior. It was precisely because of this that Xiaohua was greatly surprised, and he stared at Zhang Qingxiao for a long time before he shook his head and said, I'm sorry, Senior. Junior is still unable to recall. Zhang Qingxiao looked at the cautious Xiaohua and said, although you don't know this old man's name, you should know where this old man came from? Zhang Qingxiao obviously realized something was wrong, and immediately changed his words. Is there a need to say? Senior must be a cultivator of the heavenly demon sect. Xiaohua's face was very calm. He looked at Zhang Qingxiao's eyes and said, today is the first time Junior has seen a disciple of your sect. Junior came to Lingpei Mountain Villa today to participate in the Lingji meeting. I didn't think of fighting with your sect's disciples. Also, Junior doesn't want to participate in the grudge between your sect and Lingpei Mountain Villa. If Senior is willing, Junior can make a blood oath to not speak of this matter. Hehe, what blood oath? In this world, only the dead can truly keep a secret. Zhang Qingxiao seemed to have thought of something and said coldly, then Senior definitely won't let Junior leave this place alive today? Xiaohua narrowed his eyes as he calculated with all his might. Perhaps. Zhang Qingxiao lazily stretched her waist and the small flag in her hand swayed slightly. Suddenly, a few blood-red brilliants separated from the small flag and flashed in the black gas. At the same time, in the black gas in the distance, a series of screams sounded. It was the disciples of the Lanli sect who were still struggling with all their might. I'm afraid I'll have to use that consumable magical artifact. Xiaohua's expression didn't change, but his hands were clenched into fists. But that magic tool can only be used in close quarters. If this guy dodges it, we'll be in trouble today. However, he immediately hesitated. This magic tool only said that it's useful for cultivators whose cultivation is one realm higher than mine. It didn't say anything about devil cultivators. I really don't know if it can be used. After a dozen screams, Zhang Qingxiao waved the small flag again. The four walls of the hall flashed with black light, and the black gas was absorbed by the walls like a whale swallowing water, revealing a clear hall. Of course, in the hall, other than the cultivator named Qingyu who was holding the small flag in fear, the rest of the cultivators were lying on the ground and gradually turned into black blood. Qingyu greets Sect Master. Qingyu walked in front of Zhang Qingxiao and bowed respectfully. What's going on? Zhang Qingxiao grabbed the small flag in Qingyu's hand and asked with a frown. Didn't you say that the Vice Sect Master has something to do? Why is it so messy? Why are there so many cultivators here? Vice Sect Master? Qingyu was stunned and said blankly, Disciple doesn't know what Vice Sect Master has to do. This blood array is Senior Brother Chang's. After Qingyu finished speaking, Xiaohua, who was on guard in the distance, didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It turned out that Qingyu was a disciple of Lingpei Mountain Villa's Hu Ming. Although his cultivation was good, his status wasn't high. Thus, Qingyu joined the Heavenly Demon Sect by chance. The Heavenly Demon Sect gave Qingyu the position of Lingpei Mountain Villa's master. Today was the day Qingyu used Changhuan's power to set up the blood array and kill Hu Ming and his subordinates. What about the dead Yin Meng? Zhang Qingxiao looked at Yin Meng's corpse and asked. Disciple doesn't know. Qingyu smiled bitterly. Disciple only knows that Yin Meng and Hu Ming have always been enemies. However, because they were both disciples of the Lanli sect, they didn't dare to offend each other. Who knew that Yin Meng would come to Lingpei Mountain Villa and kill Hu Ming? Then he probed. Perhaps Yin Meng knew about the condensed treasure, and was angry that his subordinates were roped in by Hu Ming. Condensed treasure? Zhang Qingxiao sneered. You guys are really whimsical. How can there be such a cheap thing in the world? Disciple doesn't dare. Disciple doesn't believe it. I just used this so-called condensed treasure to lure Hu Ming's subordinates. Qingyu immediately smiled. Zhang Qingxiao casually waved his hand and Fan Qingmu's storage bag flew into his hand. He then reached out and took Qingwu into his hand. Then Zhang Qingxiao raised his left hand and a few rays of black light flashed in his hand. The flesh on his left hand gradually disappeared, revealing eerie white bones. I also want to see what your so-called condensed knowledge treasure looks like. When the white bones were inserted into Qingwu, the entire Qingwu emitted a violent brilliance. It suddenly became big and small, as if it was about to explode. However, after Zhang Qingxiao spat out a mouthful of blood, Qingwu was actually wrapped in blood and no longer moved. With a ci sound, Zhang Qingxiao's left hand, which had turned into white bones, was inserted into Qingwu's mouth. At this moment, Zhang Qingxiao's slightly squinted eyes suddenly widened. He was confused, and then a divine light flashed in his eyes as if he had just woken up from a dream. However, it was only a flash. Then his face changed and he quickly pulled his hand out of Qingwu. He waved the small flag in his hand, and a black qi came down from the top of his head and tightly wrapped around Qingwu. With a hong sound, the black qi exploded and scattered in all directions. Zhang Qingxiao's Taoist robe was lifted up by the qi wave. Qingwu, which contained the condensed treasure, was indeed destroyed by itself as Fan Qingmu said. Damn it, I haven't even touched the condensed treasure and it exploded. Zhang Qingxiao couldn't help but curse. This condensed treasure really has no fate with me. This tone is very similar to second senior brothers? A thought flashed in Xiaohua's mind. Who knows if this condensed treasure is real or not? Beside him, Qingyu smiled apologetically. Fan Qingmu probably just wanted to swindle some spirit stones. There's nothing left. What's the point of talking about it? Zhang Qingxiao glanced at everyone's corpses and looked at Xiaohua. At this moment, Xiaohua was also surprised. He couldn't understand why the heavenly demon sect master didn't fight with him, and instead went to deal with other things. In this period of time, Xiaohua tried his best to recover his Fa Li. He had already recovered more than half of the Fa Li he used to control the suppressing cloud seal. Xiaohua, this sect will ask you a few questions. If you can answer honestly, this sect can consider sparing your life under the condition that you make a blood oath. Zhang Qingxiao coldly looked at Xiaohua. A few questions? Xiaohua was stunned. Then he shook his head and said, Junior is a disciple of the Imperial Thunder sect. I will never join the Heavenly Demon sect. Hee, who told you to join the Heavenly Demon sect? Zhang Qingxiao chuckled and said, if your answers satisfy this sect will let you go. Let you reunite with your senior martial brother and senior martial sister. At the mention of Sun Shu and the others, Xiaohua's expression slightly changed. Needless to say, the person in front of him was a Foundation Establishment middle-stage cultivator. How could Sun Shu and the others escape from his hands? Presumably, they had already been captured outside, right? Xiaohua took a deep breath and said, Senior, please ask. Junior doesn't know if I can answer. Make a blood oath first. All your answers will be true, Zhang Qingxiao said indifferently. Xiaohua nodded. Junior will make a blood oath. Whatever Junior says will be true. Zhang Qingxiao nodded and said to Qingyu, you can leave. Yes, this disciple will take his leave. Qingyu bowed and walked to the entrance of the hall. He waved the small flag and a slit flashed in the black qi. Qingyu walked out from the slit. Are you a descendant of the Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples? Zhang Qingxiao asked. No. And when did you join the Imperial Thunder Sect? Before joining the Imperial Thunder Sect, which family did you belong to? Junior joined the Imperial Thunder Sect 10 years ago. Xiaohua hesitated and said, Junior was a loose cultivator before joining the Imperial Thunder Sect. Oh, then where did you come from? Xiaohua's expression slightly changed and he shook his head. Forgive me for not being able to answer this. Why? Are you afraid that this sect will look for your family? Since Senior knows, why are you still asking? Xiaohua also sneered. Even if this Junior dies here today, I will never bring disaster to my family. Zhang Qingxiao coldly snorted and suddenly asked, What was your cultivation level before joining the Imperial Thunder Sect? 10th layer of Qi refining. Xiaohua answered without hesitation. What about the 5 years before joining the Imperial Thunder Sect? Zhang Qingxiao pressed. This Xiaohua's expression suddenly changed. He said, Senior, don't you think you're asking too much? Then he realized something and said, could it be that Senior saw this junior at that time? Right now this sect is the one asking you, not the other way around. Zhang Qingxiao sneered. Moreover, this sect has just asked. If you want to live, you'd better obediently answer. What if this junior doesn't want to answer? Xiaohua sneered and pointed his hand. The cloud-suppressing seal above his head immediately buzzed, and its bronze brilliance flourished. Strands of spiritual energy were attracted to the cloud-suppressing seal, causing gusts of cold wind. It's nothing but a damaged magic treasure. In this old man's eyes, it's not worth mentioning. Zhang Qingxiao also snorted and waved the small flag in his hand. This old man only needs to activate the blood formation to shield the surrounding spiritual energy. How much magic power do you, a mere qi refining cultivator, have in your body for a magic treasure to use? When Xiaohua heard this, his face immediately paled. Chapter 1734. What Zhang Qingxiao said was extremely true. The cloud-suppressing seal was a magic treasure. Driving it required a lot of magic power, and the cloud-suppressing seal absorbed even more spiritual energy. This was also the foundation of magic treasures being more powerful than magic tools. If he really couldn't draw spiritual energy from the outside world inside this blood formation, Xiaohua could only use his own magic power to pour it into the cloud-suppressing seal. Otherwise, this cloud-suppressing seal could only be seen but not used. It was simply inferior to magic tools. Although Xiaohua's magic power wasn't as little as Zhang Qingxiao said. How long could it last? Fine, since you don't want to say more, this old man will ask you one last question. Zhang Qingxiao saw the change in Xiaohua's expression and said with a smile. Is your origin in the direction of Xiaoyu continent? For example, the east, south, west, and north of the country of Xi, which place? Xiaohua looked at Zhang Qingxiao, at this extremely unfamiliar face. His mind was filled with thoughts, but he really couldn't remember where he had seen this heavenly demon sect master. Senior, if Junior said he didn't know his origin, would you believe it? Xiaohua bit his lips, stared at Zhang Qingxiao's eyes, and said loudly. Zhang Qingxiao's eyes flashed with an indescribable expression. It seemed to be gratification, pity, and anger. Seeing the change in Zhang Qingxiao's expression, Xiaohua knew it wasn't good. He waved his hand and struck the cloud-suppressing seal. The magic power in his body flowed and poured into the cloud-suppressing seal. The cloud-suppressing seal hummed loudly, and a bronze brilliance flashed, gradually expanding. Sure enough, Zhang Qingxiao sneered. How can this sect believe this kind of lie? Let this sect see what the Imperial Thunder Sect's disciple is capable of. As Zhang Qingxiao spoke, he clapped his hand. A golden light flew out from his storage bag and stopped above Zhang Qingxiao's head. It was his magic treasure, the bright scenic bell. As Zhang Qingxiao struck the bright scenic bell, a dazzling brilliance sprinkled down, like Xiaohua's cloud-suppressing seal, protecting Zhang Qingxiao. Also a magic treasure? It's actually not a magic treasure. Xiaohua was slightly stunned. However, he didn't think too much about it. He pointed his hand, and the cloud-suppressing seal rumbled as it smashed towards Zhang Qingxiao. At the same time, Xiaohua didn't dare to be careless. He waved his hand, and his dust flew out to protect himself. I am quite surprised that a meditational-level kid can control a treasure. Zhang Qingxiao's face showed a trace of excitement. Although he held the array flag in his hand, he did not wave it. It seemed that he really wanted to see the power of the suppressing cloud seal. All right, I'll let you know the power of my Imperial Thunder Sect. Xiaohua rejoiced in his heart. He did his best to urge the cloud-suppressing seal to smash it down at a speed that seemed slow but was actually fast. His eyes spun around as he looked around the hall, trying to find a flaw in the blood array. At this moment, the blood formation's black gas had already converged to the 4 walls of the hall. All the black gas was flowing within the walls, as if the 4 walls were a pool of black water with countless whirlpools inside. Xiaohua looked around and saw that the walls were all the same, so he released a strand of his divine sense. Who would have thought that just as his divine sense came into contact with the black gas actually entangled his divine sense, as if it wanted to corrode his divine sense. Ouch! Xiaohua was greatly alarmed. He hurriedly withdrew his divine sense and thought to himself, I didn't expect this blood array to be so miraculous. In the hands of this heavenly demon sect master, it's actually even more powerful than in Changhuan's hands. Zhang Qingxiao seemed to know that Xiaohua's divine sense was startled by the blood array, and the corner of his mouth actually revealed a trace of a smile. Buzz buzz. The cloud-suppressing seal finally flew in front of Zhang Qingxiao. Xiaohua slightly raised his hand, and the bottom of the cloud-suppressing seal gently tilted to the side, aiming at Zhang Qingxiao, who was under the bright scenic bell. Ouch! A burst of trembling that came from the bottom of his heart and seeped into his soul, causing Zhang Qingxiao's expression to instantly change. What kind of treasure is this? Why is it so strange? Zhang Qingxiao did not dare to be negligent. He waved the array flag in his hand, and a faint black gas descended from the sky, wrapping around his entire body. Using the power of the blood array, Zhang Qingxiao was able to block the negative karma coming from the cloud-suppressing seal. Rumble! With a loud sound, the cloud-suppressing seal had already smashed down, smashing right on top of the golden brilliance of the bright scenic bell. Like a large stone falling on a brocade, the brilliance of the bright scenic bell was extremely depressed. Oh! Zhang Qingxiao was surprised again. He did not expect Xiaohua to actually have such magic power. He formed a seal with his left hand, and the bright scenic bell made a dang sound. The golden brilliance greatly flourished, and an enormous rebounding force was born from the brilliance. All of a sudden, the cloud-suppressing seal was bounced back. Hiss! Xiaohua took a deep breath, secretly shocked in his heart. A middle foundation establishment cultivator is indeed formidable. This golden bell's magic treasure. I'm afraid the cloud-suppressing seal won't be able to block it. Moreover, this devil cultivator uses a magic treasure to protect his body, so I can't get close. I only have one chance to use that consumable magic treasure. Before I can break through this defense, I definitely cannot use it. Immediately, Xiaohua slightly muttered to himself. He pointed his finger again, and magic power poured into the cloud-suppressing seal. The cloud-suppressing seal received Xiaohua's magic power, and once again fiercely rumbled. However, the cloud-suppressing seal increasingly shrunk, shrinking to the size of a foot. Go! Xiaohua shouted loudly. Immediately after, he secretly released a trace of his Buddhist sense, probing towards his lower body. Rumble! Another sound rang out. This time, the sound was much quieter than before, but the power was much greater. An extremely large amount of the bright scenic bell's brilliance was washed away. Damn it, I actually underestimated you. The smile on Zhang Qingxiao's face was very brilliant. He formed another seal, and this time the bright scenic bell also buzzed repeatedly. Unexpectedly, it swayed rapidly, and several rays of brilliance sprinkled down. Only then was the cloud-suppressing seal blocked. I'll let you see this sect's methods. Zhang Qingxiao stabilized the bright scenic bell, and the formation flag in his right hand waved. From above the hall, several rays of black energy pierced towards Xiaohua like sharp swords. At this time, Xiaohua's face was not alarmed, but instead happy. He laughed brightly. Then I'll let you see this young master's methods. Ha! Seeing Xiaohua like this, Zhang Qingxiao was slightly stunned. He did not think that Xiaohua, who had already taken out his magic treasure, would have some powerful methods. However, what happened next left him completely dumbfounded. Xiaohua's figure swayed, and a mighty Vajra Dharma body of 2 feet tall was quickly born from his body. This Dharma body was golden all over. Although many parts of it were void, the edges of the figure's outline had gradually become clear, especially the front part of the 2 arms, the 2 fists and the wrists had already solidified. This is Zhang Qingxiao's mouth was half open, and the formation flag in his hand was slightly tilted. He seemed to know what this was, but he couldn't remember it for a while. Just when Zhang Qingxiao was surprised, Xiaohua's figure suddenly flew up and flew towards Zhang Qingxiao, completely ignoring the several rays of black energy. Pa pa pa, a series of sounds. The extremely powerful black energy that could even kill the Foundation establishment stage, Yin Meng, was actually scattered by the fist of the mighty Vajra Dharma body. Chapter 1735. Xiaohua stealthily released a trace of his Buddhist sense, and was actually able to detect the true situation of the blood array. The black gas of the blood array had a corrosive effect on divine sense, but had no effect on Buddhist sense. Thus, Xiaohua was overjoyed and used the magical ability of the mighty Vajra Dharma body. Sure enough, this Buddhist Dharma body was the nemesis of devil cultivators. Just now, the incomparably powerful black gas was actually scattered by the incomplete fist of the Vajra Dharma body. It simply couldn't get close to Xiaohua. Zhang Qingxiao saw this situation that she had never encountered before, and was even more shocked. She was stunned for a moment with her mouth wide open. It was also at this moment that Xiaohua's figure swept across the space of the hall like lightning, and arrived below Zhang Qingxiao and Xiao Jingming Bell. Although Zhang Qingxiao knew that Xiaohua's flying talisman was extremely fast, she also didn't think that Xiaohua's flying technique could be this fast. Almost without any movement, Xiaohua very strangely took out a huge black object and, without any explanation, continuously hit the defensive light barrier of the Jingming Bell. When Zhang Qingxiao saw the huge object in Xiaohua's hand, she didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It was a giant devil hammer. Pung pung pung, a series of sounds rang out. The giant devil hammer in Xiaohua's hand was like paper. However, every time this paper-like object hit the light barrier of the Jingming Bell, the light barrier would violently shake. After a few times, the Jingming Bell actually let out a sorrowful cry, and the light it scattered gradually dimmed. Good, this guy actually has a devil tool. Zhang Qingxiao couldn't help but groan. She knew how strong Xiaohua was, and now it seemed that Xiaohua's strength was much greater than what she remembered. Xiaohua saw that the giant devil hammer was effective, and was overjoyed. After all, the cloud-suppressing seal needed magic power and heaven and earth spirit qi to move, but this giant devil hammer only needed strength. He lacked everything but strength. Go. Xiaohua then waved the giant devil hammer, and at the same time used his divine sense to move the cloud-suppressing seal, smashing it at the place where the giant devil hammer was ravaging. Rumble. A loud sound rang out. The incomparably tough defensive light barrier of the Jingming Bell finally broke under the attack of the cloud-suppressing seal and the giant devil hammer. This large hole rapidly expanded in all directions. Motherfucker, you're really amazing. Zhang Qingxiao could not help but exclaim in admiration. With a wave of her hand, the array flag was activated, and a fishnet-like black gas fell from the top of her head. Ooh! Just as she was waving the array flag, Zhang Qingxiao's expression suddenly changed. She shouted and turned her head to look in a certain direction. Xiaohua, who was facing Zhang Qingxiao, was ecstatic when he saw Zhang Qingxiao's bright scenic bell being destroyed. He waved his sledgehammer and blocked in front of his body. He instantly used the awakening lightning escape and flew towards Zhang Qingxiao's chest. As he flew closer, the consumable magic tool was already stored in his mouth. Once he got close enough, he would use the giant demonic hammer's attack to shoot out the magic tool. In Xiaohua's opinion, even if this magic tool couldn't kill the heavenly devil sect master, whose name he didn't know, it could at least severely injure him. Relying on the giant devil hammer and the Dream Slayer flying sword, he might be able to break this blood formation. But just as Xiaohua controlled the cloud-suppressing seal to fly above his head to block the black gas, and was about to spit out the magic tool in his mouth, he heard Zhang Qingxiao's angry shout. Xiaohua originally thought that this was Zhang Qingxiao's plan to lure the enemy, but his Buddhist sense naturally swept towards the direction Zhang Qingxiao was looking at. This sweep did not matter, but Xiaohua's mind was greatly shaken. He saw countless black gas gushing out from the corpse that was previously lying on the ground. This black gas was extremely similar to the black gas of the blood formation, but it was even denser. This black gas quickly wrapped around the black gas, and a doubtful and cold voice sounded. This is the Buddhist sect's Dharma body? Motherfucker, another heavenly devil sect disciple. This young master's life is in danger today. As this voice sounded, A powerful divine sense swept through the black gas, and a pressure comparable to the middle stage of foundation establishment also came pressing down. Xiao Hua could not help but secretly complain. He hesitated, not knowing whether to spit out the magic tool in his mouth. "Who are you?" Zhang Qingxiao sneered. The pressure that she had not released all this time was also released at this time. And in an instant, it blocked that pressure. The pressure of two middle-stage foundation establishment cultivators collided with each other, causing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the hall to become chaotic. Even the black gas that was spilling down from the sky was scattered. Of course, the pressure that just pressed down on Xiao Hua was also blocked by Zhang Qingxiao. Huh? These two people don't know each other? Xiao Hua was stunned, and the magic tool in his mouth stopped. Soon after, Xiao Hua's Buddhist sense swept out, and he saw the two people's pressure colliding with each other, causing the black gas of the blood formation to become chaotic. His eyes immediately lit up, and his figure suddenly turned, flying towards the place where the two people's pressure collided with each other at a speed several times faster than before. Zhang Qingxiao's eyes were fixed on the black gas above the hazy corpse, and she did not see Xiao Hua's escape in the slightest. And inside the black gas, besides the words just now, there was also the pressure released. For a moment, there was no movement, but the black gas was rolling like boiling water. Bang bang, bang, a series of more than 10 sounds rang out. This time, Xiao Hua used all of his strength. He swung his arm, and the giant devil hammer was like a dozen or so afterimages, hitting the blood formation that was disturbed by the pressure just now. Then with a rumbling sound, the cloud-suppressing seal finally flew over and hit the place where the giant devil hammer hit. Hua, several cracks suddenly appeared on the black gas that was like a water surface. Xiao Hua laughed loudly, and urged the mighty Vajra Dharma body, and a punch hit the location of the cracks. With a pung sound, a hole the size of a person was punched out. Xiao Hua did not say anything. His figure leapt up, and he used the awakening lightning escape, drilling towards the hole. "Where do you think you're going?" A cold voice came from the rolling black gas. At the same time, a wisp of thick black gas separated from the mass of black gas, and quickly shot towards Xiao Hua. "Damn it, of course, I am in charge of my blood formation. If I don't let him go, then I naturally won't let him go. Who made you worry? If you want to keep him, then I will let him go." Zhang Qingxiao sneered and shouted loudly. She waved the formation flag, and the hole in the blood formation became bigger. Moreover, several wisps of black gas also flew out and condensed into a cloud behind Xiao Hua, blocking that wisp of black gas. With a muffled boom, that wisp of black gas pierced into the black cloud like a sharp thorn. The black cloud swelled, and then it was scattered by the black gas. Zhang Qingxiao's expression was even more strange, and she shouted, "You are not a disciple of the Blue Li sect. You? Which demonic cultivator are you?" Although that wisp of black gas passed through the black cloud, it was blocked by the black cloud. Moreover, Xiao Hua's awakening lightning escape was so fast. When the black gas flew to the hole in the blood formation, Xiao Hua's figure had already disappeared outside the hole. Ga. A strange sound came from the rolling black gas. "How can you know who I am? You little demonic cultivator. Where did you get this demonic cultivation method? It's actually so pure? Which demonic cultivator are you?" "My heavenly demonic sect is the only demonic sect in the Dawn Rain continent. You are just a lonely ghost. Why don't you hurry up and seek refuge under my sect?" How could Zhang Qingxiao answer him? With a wave of his hand, the formation flag repaired the blood formation. His other hand patted his forehead, and an inch-long flying sword flew out from his mouth. It was blood-red in color and floated in front of him. The only demonic sect in the Dawn Rain continent? Ha 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 ha. Following this loud and clear voice, a human figure twice the size of an ordinary cultivator slowly stood up from the black gas. When this person stood steadily, the boiling black gas from before had already gradually entered his body. The place where the black gas entered actually revealed a pitch-black demonic armor. This demonic armor faintly had some enchanting runes on it, and the gaps between the runes were faintly blood-red, as if it was smeared with fresh blood. That demonic armor covered most of this person's body, and the arms and shoulders that were exposed outside of the demonic armor were thick and bulky muscles. You are Yin Meng? Zhang Qingxiao saw that his face had already turned green, but his previous appearance could still be vaguely seen, and she couldn't help but be slightly stunned. Is it important whether I am Yin Meng or not? Yin Meng said with a smile, and his voice was still sharp. I only know that you are a frog at the bottom of a well. You created a heavenly demonic sect in the country of Xi, and you claim to be number one in the world. Ha ha ha, truly laughable. Originally, I wanted to look for the sect master of this heavenly demonic sect to discuss the development of our demonic cultivators, but now it seems that there is no need for that. Zhang Qingxiao's expression changed slightly. He narrowed his eyes and stared at Yin Meng for a long time, then said coldly, "Then tell me, what other demonic sects are there in the Dawn Rain continent? Aren't Extreme Yin sect, Coitus sect, and Sixth Level sect all famous demonic sects? Not to mention the other small sects that are not even worth mentioning." Yin Meng said contemptuously with a faint smile hanging on the corner of his mouth. What? So many? Zhang Qingxiao was stunned, but then he thought of something, and his eyes widened as he said anxiously, "Fellow Taoist Yin, could it be that, outside the Million Meng Mountains?" Hearing the hesitation and probing in Zhang Qingxiao's tone, Yin Meng laughed loudly and said, "So fellow Taoist Yin is not completely ignorant. This old man thought that you had the same origin as me, but unexpectedly. Ha ha ha, fellow Taoist Yin was actually able to establish the heavenly demonic sect, and do things that this old man and the others couldn't do. This old man really admires you." Wait. Zhang Qingxiao frowned slightly, then cupped his fists and said, "This sect master is Qing Fengmen. How should I address you?" "This sect master is naturally Yin Meng." Yin Meng smiled, then looked around and said, "Sect Master Qing, why haven't you put away this blood formation?" Could it be as Yin Meng spoke, the demonic armor on his body flashed with brilliance. He, fellow Taoist Yin, you're overthinking. Zhang Qingxiao pondered for a moment, then the formation flag in his hand swayed. Wisps of blood-black smoke rose from the walls of the hall, and flew toward the formation flag. Zhang Qingxiao said, "This blood formation was set up by my vice sect master to avenge his past enmity. This sect master is just here to take a look, and I have no other intentions. I didn't expect to actually meet fellow Taoist Yin here. This is the great fortune of my heavenly demonic sect." Chapter 1736. Ever since I learned about the heavenly demon sect, I've been looking for an opportunity to contact Sect Master Qing. It's just a coincidence today. I didn't expect my wish to come true. It's my honor. Seeing Zhang Qingxiao put away the blood formation, Yin Meng also recited a strange incantation. The demon realm slowly turned into wisps of black gas, and was absorbed into Yin Meng's body. At the same time, his figure also slowly shrank. When the black gas around him disappeared, a normal Yin Meng appeared in front of Zhang Qingxiao. "May I know which sect are you from?" Zhang Qingxiao thought for a moment and asked softly, "Haha, there's no need to rush. This old man is out on official business. Now that all of my disciples are dead, this old man has the time to discuss this matter with Sect Master Qing. We can talk about this later." Yin Meng said with a smile. "Good." Zhang Qingxiao clapped and said, "That's exactly what I want to ask for." I don't dare. I also have something to ask of Sect Master Qing." Yin Meng cupped his fists and said, "If Sect Master Qing can complete my task, you'll be the main contributor to my demon sect unifying the Dawn Rain continent." "Unifying the Dawn Rain continent?" Zhang Qingxiao frowned and asked curiously, "Millions of demon cultivators from Meng Mountains, that's why we're here." Yin Meng only said one sentence and didn't say anything else. He just looked at the hole in the hall and said with a puzzled face, "Which sect's disciple is that cultivator who escaped just now? How can he be so powerful? I remember that everyone in this hall is Lanli sect's disciple, and they're all at Qi refining stage. Not only can this disciple use magic treasures, but he also has the legendary Buddhist Dharma Body divine ability." "What Buddhist Dharma Body divine ability?" Zhang Qingxiao pretended to be surprised and said, Could it be the Buddhist sect that's the nemesis of my demon sect? I'm not sure. Yin Meng said awkwardly. I was using my sect's secret technique just now, so I couldn't see or hear clearly. I only took a glance and can't be sure. If Sect Master Qing didn't get angry with me just now and let him stay, I could use the soul-searching technique to learn something. A cold light flashed on Zhang Qingxiao's face and she sneered. Are you blaming this sect? Ha ha ha, I wouldn't dare. Yin Meng waved his hands repeatedly. It's all this old man's fault. When this old man saw that there was actually a devil cultivator's blood array here, I had the idea of waiting for him to show up. If I had revealed my true form at that time, how could there have been such a misunderstanding between us? Then, Sect Master Qing won't let a disciple of the Buddhist sect escape so easily. It's no wonder, it's all my fault. Zhang Qingxiao changed her expression and said, This cultivator's mouth is very tight, he didn't reveal a single word. Moreover, the disciples in the hall are all dead. The disciples of Ling Pei Mountain Villa. They are all gone. I'm afraid it will be difficult to find the origin of this disciple. Forget it. The Buddhist sect has already been dead for tens of thousands of years. Even if a Tao sect disciple managed to obtain a little of it, he would not be able to accomplish much. Moreover, I'm afraid that the Tao sect wants to destroy the Buddhist sect even more than we do, right? Yin Meng laughed. Zhang Qingxiao rolled her eyes and shook her head. I don't know. Please enlighten me, fellow Taoist. Haha, well said. Yin Meng looked at the hall's door that was already open and said with a smile. This old man will tell you everything he knows. Please. Zhang Qingxiao raised her hand and looked at the hole in the hall. There was a thoughtful look in her eyes. As for Xiaohua, who had just escaped from the blood formation in the hall, he didn't dare to tarry in the slightest. Without even looking, he used the lightning escape to escape in a certain direction. However, two voices berated him at the same time. Where did this brat come from? Following that voice, a heavenly demon sect disciple under the starlight waved the long banner in his hand, and an incomparably fishy bloody light swept over. Next to this heavenly demon sect disciple, there was a slightly taller one. He held a thick black stick in his hand, and he was also swinging it down. As the stick was swung, there was actually a heart-wrenching howl of the dead. It was clearly refined from the souls of living people. Following the berating of these two people, many figures appeared in the distance. Xiaohua swept with his Buddhist awareness, but didn't find any trace of Sun Shu and the others. Therefore, a cold light flashed in his eyes, and the giant devil hammer in his left hand that hadn't been put into the space smashed towards the stick in a thunderous manner. At the same time, he opened his mouth and a green and red brilliance flashed. The Dream Slayer flying sword flew out, and flew towards the bloody light. When the two heavenly demon sect disciples saw this, they were not alarmed but happy. Their magic tools were refined from the souls and blood of living people. As long as ordinary magic tools were contaminated, they would immediately be corroded and lose their effectiveness. This cultivator didn't know what was good for him, and used his magic tool like this. Wasn't it falling into their hands? Who would have thought that with a loud pung, the turbid substance on the stick didn't corrode the giant devil hammer? Instead, under the heavy blow of the giant devil hammer, it was smashed into two pieces. Not only that, but the giant devil hammer's remaining power was not exhausted. Not only did the head of the hammer smash into the disciple's body, but the other half of the stick also stabbed into his body. The other disciple was even more miserable. Just as he heard the loud sound, the Dream Slayer flying sword pierced through the bloody light. An indescribable fear rose from the bottom of his heart. Before he could scream, the Dream Slayer flying sword pierced through his throat and flew into the night sky. As the Dream Slayer flying sword flew past the disciple's corpse, Xiaohua's figure was also holding the cloud-suppressing seal in his hand. Since he easily killed the two disciples, Xiaohua stretched out his hand and caught the long banner that fell from the sky. Afterwards, he urged his remaining magic power to use the awakening lightning escape with all his strength. Like an afterimage, he flashed under the starlight and disappeared. When the other heavenly demon sect disciples found him, how could they still see Xiaohua's trace? The heavenly demon sect master is very strange. How could he let me escape? Although Xiaohua escaped from Lingpei Mountain Manor, the fear and doubt in his heart didn't disappear at all. He still thought to himself, even if it was because of that Yinmeng's casual interference, he wouldn't have let me go so easily, right? Hey, what are you thinking about? Even if he didn't let me go, could it be that he could keep me here? Xiaohua spat out. The heavenly demon sect's blood array was personally broken by me. Only, I didn't think that Yinmeng actually didn't die, and is also a devil cultivator. Granny, I even gave my life to that heavenly demon sect's sect master, but in the end, I still don't know his name. AI, how can I be so unlucky? This Lingpei Mountain Manor's blood array clearly wasn't aimed at me, but at Sun Shu. How did I become the scapegoat? The sect leader of the heavenly demon sect. Will he issue a sect leader's order to arrest this young master? Chapter 1737. Also, Yinmeng is a cultivator of the Blue Li sect. Will he reveal the fact that I know the Buddhist sect's cultivation method? Then where should I go from here? Xiaohua was very angry after thinking about it. If he dares to reveal it, I will tell him that he is a demonic cultivator. But, what if he doesn't reveal it? Will I still reveal the secret of him being a demonic cultivator? Xiaohua suddenly thought again. Unconsciously, Xiaohua was a little hesitant. Yinmeng was a cultivator of the foundation establishment stage. His status was much higher than his. If he really revealed it, would they believe him or him? Forget it. Let's wait and see. Xiaohua shook his head gloomily. At this time, he had already flown hundreds of miles away from Jiangqing City. Xiaohua didn't pay attention to the direction of escape at all. The moonlight sprinkled on the grassland like water, and the cool wind blew. Countless light and darkness were reflected on the boundless ground. Xiaohua's shadow was cast on the light and darkness, passing by like a wisp of smoke. And it should be safe. Xiaohua swept his Buddhist consciousness behind him with all his might, but he didn't find any signs of pursuit. Then he carefully looked around him for a long time, but he didn't find any signs of spiritual sense. Only then did he breathe a sigh of relief. Senior Sister Sun and the others escaped before me. I don't know if they fell into the hands of the heavenly demon sect? Xiaohua thought to himself. We are just disciples of the Qi refinement stage. We came out to gain experience. Even if we die for the sect, we won't care. It's just that this Lingpei Mountain Villa is involved with the heavenly demon sect. If I send a message back to the sect, they might come to rescue us? Thinking of this, Xiaohua clapped his hand and took out a communication talisman. He thought to himself, let me see if Senior Sister and the others are captured first. The crimson communication talisman was sent out. It only paused in midair for a moment, and then flew quickly in a direction, and that direction wasn't where Lingpei Mountain Villa was. Haha, great. Seeing this, Xiaohua was overjoyed. He immediately flew in the direction where the communication talisman disappeared. In the time it took to finish a meal, 3 figures appeared in the air opposite him. A surprised voice sounded. Is it junior brother Xiao? Haha, Senior Sister Sun, you guys really escaped. Xiaohua laughed loudly and shouted. You also escaped. Sun Shu's voice was choked with emotion as tears fell from the corners of his eyes. Senior Sun, look at you. You've already cried just now. Now that junior brother Xiao is safe and sound, why do you have to do this? Qian Diheng's voice sounded again. Sun Shu's lips curled into a smile, but he couldn't finish his sentence. Junior brother Xiao, you are really amazing. At this time, Qian Diheng had already arrived in front of Xiaohua. He didn't have any intention of stopping. He directly rushed toward Xiaohua and gave him a bear hug as he shouted. You were able to kill that person from the heavenly demon sect by yourself. Moreover, you were able to escape from the formation, cough cough. Xiaohua's heart felt warm, but he still pushed away Qian Diheng's enthusiasm and said with a smile, this little brother was just lucky. Luck. Damn it, why can't I be so lucky? Qian Diheng let go of Xiaohua and said, this time, I owe you a big favor. Xiaohua asked curiously, why do you owe this little brother a favor again? Sai, do you still need to say it? Qian Diheng looked at Xiaohua very affectionately. Originally, The first one to escape should be junior brother Xiao. But junior brother Xiao let me, senior sister Kuan and senior sister Sun all come out. Only you came out last. If this isn't a big favor, then what is? Xiao Hua scratched his head and said with a smile. Unfortunately, that hole was too small. It could only allow one person to escape. Otherwise, this little brother would have also escaped. Junior brother Qian, junior brother Xiao, this is not a place to talk. We should leave this place as soon as possible. Kuan Fian looked quietly at the side and suddenly said, if the heavenly demon sect disciples catch up, we will be in trouble. Exactly. Junior brother Xiao, we should hurry and leave. Sun Shu also woke up. She wiped away the tears on her cheeks and said hurriedly. So the three of them picked a direction and headed west. They didn't sleep or rest and flew for 3 days straight. They found a secluded place and entered a cave. Then, they used a formation to seal the cave and cultivated for 2 days. Only then did they start their journey again. When they were escaping, Sun Shu had already asked Xiao Hua who was the cultivator, who sealed the formation after she escaped. Xiao Hua originally wanted to tell her the truth. However, when he thought about how the heavenly demon sect's sovereign's cultivation was too high, it was understandable that she escaped from the hands of a middle-stage foundation establishment cultivator. However, if she escaped from a middle-stage foundation establishment cultivator's formation, there was no way he could justify himself. Moreover, this matter involved Yin Meng. He had already decided not to reveal that Yin Meng was a devil cultivator. Naturally, he couldn't drag Yin Meng, who was already killed in the eyes of Sun Shu and the others, into this matter. He could only say that it was a heavenly demon sect disciple, and that he didn't know him. Sun Shu naturally trusted Xiao Hua. Whatever Xiao Hua said was the truth. She didn't ask any more questions. Even if Xiao Hua escaped, she didn't want to ask a single word. She was afraid that if she recalled a little more, it would make her sad. On the other hand, Kuan Fian was very curious. He asked one question after another, as if he wanted to know the truth. After being asked too many questions, Xiao Hua just turned his head and smiled. Senior sister Sun, do you still remember what that heavenly devil sect disciple said when you had just escaped? What did he say? Sun Shu's face turned slightly red. Lowering her head, she said, I only cared about escaping. How could I have the mind to think about anything else? Hee. Although we were unlucky and encountered the internal strife of Spirit Pay Mountain Manor. But the person that the heavenly devil sect disciple was looking for in the end seemed to be senior sister Sun. Xiao Hua chose his words carefully. Otherwise, after senior sister Sun escaped, the heavenly devil sect wouldn't have let this little brother escape so easily. What? The heavenly devil sect was looking for senior sister Sun? Qian Diheng was greatly shocked. Looking at Sun Shu, he asked, Senior sister, which disciple of the heavenly devil sect did you offend? You were actually being hunted down? And with such a huge formation at that? How would I know? Sun Shu thought for a long time and couldn't help but shake her head, saying, although I had long known about devil cultivators, the name heavenly devil sect was also something that I had just heard about. How could I have possibly offended them? Not to mention offending any devil cultivators. Along the way, it seems that you only had some conflicts with a group of cultivators in Weeping Moon City. Kuan Fian frowned. That's right, that day didn't they say that they were looking for senior brother Chang who didn't appear? Xiao Hua suddenly thought, could this senior brother Chang be Chang Huan? Xiao Hua glanced at Sun Shu. Sun Shu also seemed to have thought of it, but her eyes were still blank. She said in a low voice, I am those cultivators. I don't know any of them. I forget it. Who cares who they are? Xiao Hua said with a smile. Left and right they either died or ran away. Who knows? That's right, who did that condensed knowledge treasure belong to in the end? Kuan Fian asked again, his eyes staring at Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua thought for a while and said, no one got it. That devil cultivator forcefully broke through the restriction of Qing Wu. Qing Wu self-destructed. That condensed knowledge treasure should have been destroyed too. Ah? Qian Diheng roared. That's a condensed knowledge treasure. Those devil cultivators, they didn't use it, and instead casually destroyed it. It's really, really hateful. He left and right, it's not ours. If it's destroyed, then it's destroyed. Xiaohua curled his lips. It's already not bad that we were able to escape. That's right, and the four of us escaped without any injuries. Sun Shu said with a gratified smile. I'm afraid that those Lanli sect disciples are all dead. This is all thanks to junior brother Xiao. Qian Diheng said with a smile. When we return from our travels, I will definitely tell master. Cough cough, many thanks, many thanks. I will definitely give little brother some benefits. Xiaohua also said with a smile. Don't worry, Xiaohua. When we return to the Imperial Thunder Sect, whatever you want, I will give it to you. Qian Diheng naturally knew that it was Xiaohua who helped him escape with his life. He was not stingy at all. Great. Xiaohua clapped his hands and said, This is what I need. Sun Shu covered her mouth and smiled, her eyes filled with joy. Although Kuan Fian smiled, there was some hesitation in his eyes. After that, the three of them flew for dozens of days. Seeing that they were close to the Luofeng mountain, Xiaohua began to secretly plan. Seeing that they were flying over a hill, Xiaohua stopped. Since Xiaohua safely escaped from the Lingpei mountain villa, the three of them had already faintly followed Xiaohua's lead. Seeing Xiaohua land for no reason, everyone's heart trembled. They naturally thought of Xiaohua's vigilance when he returned from the Feather Immortal Assembly. Their faces changed slightly. Qian Diheng even tried to release his spirit sense and said in a low voice, What's wrong? Junior brother Xiao, is there any danger ahead? Hearing this, Xiaohua didn't know whether to laugh or cry. But then his heart moved and he nodded slightly. I feel that something is wrong ahead. It seems that I have some trouble ahead. But whether it has anything to do with me, I can't say for sure. Then, let's take a detour. Sun Shu said without hesitation. Xiaohua shook his head. No, if it's really related to me, I'd better go and take a look. I can't implicate three senior brothers because of this matter. No, let's go together. Sun Shu refused again without hesitation. How could Xiaohua let them go to the Luofeng mountain? After thinking for a while he said, My flying speed is extremely fast. If there is any danger, I can escape. If senior sister Sun follows, I'm afraid I can't take care of both of you. Sun Shu's face was full of disappointment. He forced a smile and said reluctantly, Junior brother Xiao is right. I will only be a burden to you if I go. It's better for junior brother Xiao to arrange it. Xiaohua smiled at Sun Shu happily. Looking at Qian Diheng and Kuan Fian, he said, 3 senior brothers, let's take a detour for 100 miles. I'll send a message 10 days later. How about that? Qian Diheng glanced at Kuan Fian, and Kuan Fian nodded slightly. Thus he said with a smile, All right, junior brother Xiao, I will listen to your arrangements. You must be careful. Chapter 1738. Listening to Kuan Fian and Qian Diheng's warning, and looking at Sun Shu's extremely concerned gaze, Xiaohua was quite unhappy, but he had no other choice. Although this Luofeng Mountains matter was very simple, it might involve his own origin. This kind of matter was of the highest importance, and even the people closest to him couldn't be revealed. He could only say some lies. However, fortunately, the three of them listened to Xiaohua's words. What Xiaohua said wasn't considered a lie, and every word was true. It was just that he didn't say his true purpose. When the 3 figures disappeared from sight, Xiaohua didn't rush forward. He found a secluded place, dug out a cave, entered it, and laid down a formation. Then he stretched out his hand and took out the long banner that was covered in a layer of black gas. There were faint sounds of ghosts crying and wolves howling. This thing was casually taken from the Heavenly Demon Sect disciple of Lingpei Mountain Villa. And he didn't have time to examine it. This long banner was divided into 2 parts. One part was a 1 zhang long pole. The surface was black and shiny, and there were strange runes on it. They were different from the runes that Xiaohua usually saw. On top of the pole was a long banner. It was 1 qi wide and 2 qi long. It was unknown what material the banner was made of. A thick layer of black qi stuck to both sides of the banner. From time to time, a very frightening ghost face would appear from the black qi. Is this a devil cultivator's devil artifact? Xiaohua didn't dare to use his divine sense to examine it, and released his Buddhist sense. The black gas in the long banner seemed to be afraid of the Buddhist sense. And as the Buddhist sense went deeper, they all moved aside. With a long sound, the Buddhist sense came into contact with a faintly discernible thing, and that thing let out an ear-piercing scream. Ah! This sound was incomparably loud, and it seemed to resound in Xiaohua's mind. Then, Xiaohua's Buddhist sense suddenly became hot, and this hot feeling was transmitted to the Buddha Sarira through the Buddhist sense. Oh! This devil artifact is actually a trick. Xiaohua was shocked, and hurriedly wanted to withdraw his Buddhist sense, but it was already too late. An inexplicable feeling came from the Buddha Sarira, and Xiaohua's eyes seemed to suddenly change, and his whole body disappeared. When he came back to his senses, he had already become another old man, leaning on a walking stick, coughing and staggering with difficulty. Where am I? Xiaohua was shocked. He tried his best to struggle, but he seemed to be trapped in the old man's body. He couldn't move and could only follow the old man. Afterwards, the old man did many things. Although Xiaohua was anxious, he could only watch from the side. In the end, when the old man and his clansmen were traveling far away, in an inn, they met someone Xiaohua was familiar with. This person was none other than the owner of the long banner that Xiaohua had previously killed in Lingpei Mountain Villa. I understand now. When he saw this person, Xiaohua suddenly realized that this old man was probably the vengeful spirit of the long banner, and his Buddhist sense had probably encountered this vengeful spirit. Sure enough, when night fell, the disciples of the heavenly demon sect actually executed a spell outside the inn, killing all the living people in the inn and absorbing their souls into the long banner. Damn it! When Xiaohua saw that the old man's soul was about to leave his body, and he himself was about to be sucked into the long banner, his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. At the same time, he thought of the exquisite Leaf Sutra, so he immediately activated the Buddhist sect's mental cultivation method in midair. Xiaohua's mind blossomed with golden light that was Tenjiang, in midair, gradually transforming into a golden Buddha body. Many thanks, Venerable One. When the golden Buddha body flashed in midair, all the illusions disappeared. The old man's soul also stopped in front of the golden Buddha body. With a face full of satisfaction and gratitude, he prostrated himself in front of the golden Buddha body. Lin! The golden Buddha body formed a seal with its hands, emitting a golden light that was Tenjiang, long. As it shouted, the golden Lin word actually flew out of the Buddha's mouth. It seemed like a rune, yet it wasn't. It hit the old man's soul, and the soul gradually dissipated, turning into an extremely small speck of dust and disappearing. At the same time the old man's soul disappeared, an extremely brilliant dot of light lit up in Xiaohua's Buddhist heart, and the Buddhist fire lit up a little. Excellent! The golden Buddha body sighed and withdrew the seal. Its entire body turned into golden light, and for a moment, it lit up the entire world. When all the light disappeared, Xiaohua's mind returned to his physical body. AI transcendence. Xiaohua suddenly opened his eyes, and they were full of compassion. He had cultivated this Buddha Sarira for so long, and he finally cultivated the first layer of the Buddhist sect's golden body divine ability, a divine ability that was completely useless in battle. This heavenly demon sect is indeed sinister. They even want to kill ordinary people in the secular world in order to capture their souls, to refine this demonic artifact. If this young master's cultivation is successful in the future, this young master will definitely personally destroy this heavenly demon sect. Xiaohua thought fiercely, but immediately, Zhang Qingxiao's image appeared in Xiaohua's mind, causing him to hesitate a little. But why does that heavenly demon sect's sect master look so dignified? His actions can also be considered open and upright. I'm afraid he's just a superficial person. When Xiaohua finished thinking, he pointed his hand, and the long banner floated in the air. Xiaohua closed his eyes and entered a meditative state. His hands were forming the seal for the Lin character. The swastika character on his forehead slowly rotated, and a golden brilliance entered the long banner's black aura. Within the black aura, the golden body of a Buddha Sarira flashed and appeared. This golden body was the same as Xiaohua, withdrawing the seal and opening its mouth. The golden Lin character slowly flew out. 8 days later, Xiaohua flew out of the cave. His face was very tired, But his expression was also extremely satisfied. In these 6 days and 6 nights, Xiaohua didn't slack off in the slightest. He transcended the more than 300 vengeful souls in the demonic banner. What surprised him was that there were actually several dozen vengeful souls of low-level aura refining cultivators. The more than 200 vengeful souls of the secular world were very easy to transcend, but these several dozen vengeful souls of low-level aura refining cultivators were much more difficult. Fortunately, Xiaohua's mind was firm, and he also bemoaned the state of the universe and pitied the fate of mankind. His heart was always compassionate, so although it was difficult, it wasn't too dangerous. Just a moment ago, Xiaohua transcended the vengeful soul of a 9th-layer aura refining cultivator. Although Xiaohua wanted to rest for a day, it was a good day. The sword competition at Luofeng Mountain had already begun. If he didn't go now, the group of martial artists would scatter, and his plan to find a new body would fail. Therefore, he immediately came out of the cave, activated the awakening lightning escape, and flew in the direction of Luofeng Mountain. These 8 days of hard work didn't go to waste. The exquisite Leaf Sutra has made great progress. It's much better than the usual hard work of studying it. Moreover, the black gas on the demonic banner hasn't weakened. It's just that there aren't many living souls inside, so it seems to have lost its power. Xiaohua flew in the air, and secretly calculated in his heart. What makes this young master the happiest is that this young master has finally obtained the first layer of the Buddhist divine ability. However, this divine ability is really useless. Chapter 1739. When Xiaohua flew to Luofeng Mountain, it was dusk. At this time, the red sun was setting in the west, and the sky was filled with rosy clouds, covering the entire western horizon. Reflecting the rosy clouds, the green pines, green bamboo, deep water, and shallow streams of Luofeng Mountain were especially beautiful. Xiaohua's body was illuminated by the multicolored clouds, as if he was flying on multicolored divine light. From afar he looked very mighty. Ah, the sunset I usually see is blood red, but the sunset of Luofeng Mountain is actually multicolored. How wonderful! Xiaohua squinted his eyes and looked at the beautiful scenery outside the sky. He secretly smiled and said, "Instead of calling this mountain Luofeng Mountain, it's better to call it Rosy Clouds Mountain." Immediately, Xiaohua released his divine sense and searched the mountain. Immediately, a smile appeared on his face. He flew over several mountain ridges and landed next to one of the tallest mountain peaks. This was the main peak of Luofeng Mountain, Sunset Mountain. The mountain was hundreds of feet high, and not only was it extremely dangerous, there was only one mountain path from the foot of the mountain to the top. At this time, on the mountain path, every few feet, there was a burly man or a dignified man holding all kinds of weapons guarding there. Xiaohua originally wanted to land on the top of Sunset Mountain, but at this time, there were many martial arts experts on the mountain. If he went up, it would inevitably shock the world. His purpose was only to find out his roots, so there was no need to show off. Therefore, Xiaohua walked slowly. Before he reached the mountain path, a burly man with a steel sword blocked his way and scolded. "Where did this arrogant student come from? This place has already been occupied by Luofeng gang, so you can't go up the mountain to enjoy the scenery. Why don't you quickly retreat?" Haha, Xiaohua didn't get angry and said with a smile, "I came to participate in the Luofeng Mountain Sword Conference. Please make an exception." "Ah, you want to participate in the Luofeng Mountain Sword Conference?" That burly man's face was full of surprise, and then he laughed and pointed. "You think you're a zhong yinyang zhong? What time is it? The Luofeng Mountain Sword Conference rankings must have already been announced. Even if you can go up, who will want to compete with you?" Then he looked him up and down and said, "Look at your elegant face, you don't have the strength to truss a chicken. You must have read some Wuxia gossip and had a dream of becoming a sword immortal, so you came to Luofeng Mountain to pursue your dream. Forget it, forget it. A scholar like you should quickly go back and study behind closed doors. Properly study the way of governing the world, so that you can achieve great things in the future. Even if you can't bring prosperity to the people, you should still find a gentle little wife and live a good life with her. Don't be like me who only knows how to fight. Hehe. Seeing the fierce and ferocious face of the burly man in front of him, Xiaohua cupped his hands and said, "Thank you for your advice, great hero. I appreciate your good intentions, but I am indeed not a scholar. Fine. Then come over here. If you can defeat me, you can go up the Luofeng mountain." The big man raised his arm. The muscles on his body moved up and down as if they were moving. Xiaohua didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He asked, "If I knock you down, can I directly go up the mountain?" "Ha ha, you really took it seriously?" The big man laughed and said, "I am only a small soldier guarding the mountain path. Don't you see how many heroes are on the mountain path? You have to defeat them one by one." Forget it. Xiaohua smiled bitterly. He rubbed his nose and turned to leave. Little scholar, study hard. Find a little wife and give birth to a little scholar. Live a good life. Don't have any improper thoughts or unrealistic actions. The big man shouted behind him. These burly men are really interesting. When Xiaohua heard this, he turned around and saluted. "Thank you for the reminder." The big man had a smile on his face. Although it was sincere, his fierce face was full of ill intentions. "I originally wanted to take the normal path, but unfortunately, I can't do as I wish. I can only go up by myself." Xiaohua walked for a while. Seeing that there was no one around, he made a hand seal and entered the ground. He went straight to the peak of the Sunset Mountain. At this time, there were many heroes sitting on the ground at the peak of the Sunset Mountain. They were in groups of 2 or 3. They were all silent, and their eyes were fixed on the open space at the peak of the mountain. The open space at the peak of the mountain was about 10 zhang in radius. It was surrounded by people in a circle. At the center of the circle, there were 5 chairs. At this time, there were 3 people sitting on the chairs. In front of the chairs, there were 2 people tossing and turning, using all their means to compete. Xiaohua went to the peak of the mountain and revealed himself behind the crowd. He scanned with his divine sense and found Zhang Xuyang among the crowd. At this time, Zhang Xuyang was sitting far away from the crowd. He looked excited and anxious. From time to time, he would look at the mountain path. He was probably waiting for Xiaohua's arrival. Xiaohua was not in a hurry to go up. Instead, he looked at the 2 people fighting in the field. There was a man and a woman on the field. The man was about 50 years old. He was tall and had a rosy face. However, that rosy face was too coquettish, extremely abnormal. His opponent was a woman about 60 years old. There were some wrinkles on her face, but they were very small. Even her hair was oily black. However, this woman's face was a little green, a kind of faint green. At this time, the 2 people were fighting back and forth. They were evenly matched. Xiaohua released his divine sense and watched silently. Slowly, his brows began to wrinkle. These 2 people were obviously using some low-level mental cultivation methods in their meridians. These mental cultivation methods were somewhat similar to qi refinement cultivation methods. However, in reality, they were fundamentally different. They were not drawing the world's spiritual qi into their body to refine it. Instead, they were simply using it. In other words, when they used the world's spiritual qi, it could slightly refine the meridians in their body. Looking at the woman again, when she used her cultivation method, she could control the water-type world's spiritual qi. She rarely used other types of spiritual qi. On the contrary, the man could control the fire-type world's spiritual qi. He did not use other types of spiritual qi. And this man should be the northern fire Ma Ming. This woman should be the western rain water Yu Tiao. Xiaohua thought to himself. But their cultivation method seems to be different from my Qing Gong. Then, Xiaohua looked at the 3 people sitting on the chairs. In the center of the 3 people was a man with a strong build. He was also an old man in his 50s. His face was white and clean. He had 3 strands of long beard on his lower jaw. A pair of tiger-like eyes were staring at the field. This old man's left hand was a bald middle-aged man. He was incomparably thick and strong. His hands and feet were big, comparable to a door god. The old man's right hand was a lean middle-aged man. This person was really thin, like a bag of bones. It seemed like a gust of wind could blow him away. Moreover, this person had shifty eyebrows and a mouse-like beard hanging on his chin. He looked very wretched. Come on, this old man in the middle must be the Yin Yang Wang Chong. The one on the left must be Eastern Thunder's Lei Huming. The one on the right should be Southern Wind's Su Bingyi. Pei, this Zhang Xuyang, he actually compared this young master to Southern Wind. Is this young master that ugly? Xiaohua smacked his lips. Seeing that Ma Ming and Shui Yutiao's breathing was no longer steady, Xiaohua knew that the two people's fight was coming to an end. He looked around and slowly walked toward Zhang Xuyang. Everyone in the field was watching attentively. Xiaohua's walk naturally attracted a lot of supercilious looks. But everyone looked at Xiaohua and thought that he was a younger generation brought by some family. They all glared at him and ignored him. Hero Zhang. Xiaohua walked behind Zhang Xuyang and lightly patted him. He whispered, "Oh, benefactor Xiao, you finally came." Zhang Xuyang saw that Xiaohua's face was filled with joy. His voice unconsciously became louder. Cough cough. Someone next to him immediately coughed twice. AI benefactor Xiao. Zhang Xuyang quickly apologized to the person next to him. Then he pulled Xiaohua's hand and said in a low voice, "Unfortunately, why did you come so late? This Luofeng Mountain Sword Conference is already over. A few days ago, there were many outstanding martial artists who challenged the 5 immortals of Wulin. Unfortunately, they were all defeated. At this time, the 5 immortals will be seated. Benefactor Xiao, I'm afraid you don't have a chance." Zhang Xuyang said with a face full of regret. "It's okay," Xiaohua smiled and comforted him in a low voice. At this time, a loud sound was heard. A gust of wind blew through the field, blowing everyone's eyes closed. When everyone opened their eyes again, they saw that in the center of the open space, Ma Ming and Shui Yutiao's palms were pressed against each other. Ma Ming's face was so red that it seemed like it was going to drip blood. Shui Yutiao's face gradually turned green, green like the green bamboo in the mountain stream. "Oh no!" Zhang Xuyang exclaimed from the side. "Their lives are in danger?" "Why?" Xiaohua looked around and saw that everyone's face was full of panic and excitement. West Rain Yutiao lost to East Thunder Lei Huming. North Fire Ma Ming also lost to South Wind Su Bingyi by half a move. This time, both of them don't want to be ranked last. They want to win a move or two, but their martial arts are equal. Now they are competing with their internal strength. Zhang Xuyang's eyes were also full of excitement. And this internal strength competition is the most dangerous. Whoever's cultivation is a little bit weaker will immediately lose their life. These two people's cultivation seems to be about the same, Xiaohua said while pinching his chin. That's even worse, Zhang Xuyang said. In the end, the two of them will be injured and need to rest for several years to recover. In the end, their internal strength will be exhausted and they will die. No way. Xiaohua was shocked. It's just an empty title, and they are risking their lives? The most important thing in Wulin is reputation, benefactor Xiao, and this is a ranking that is held once every 10 years. Zhang Xuyang said with a longing face. These are the 5 immortals of Wulin. No one wants to be ranked last. Xiaohua was speechless. The cultivation world. Isn't it the same? At this moment, Zhang Chong and the other two also stood up in shock. They also had other expressions on their faces. Zhang Chong said in a deep voice, Hero Lei, Hero Su, this matter is a little tricky. Yeah, we just competed. The meridians in our bodies are not full yet. The two people's cultivation is only a little bit lower than ours. No matter who goes up, I'm afraid we won't be able to separate them, right? Su Bingyi said while blinking his small eyes. Chapter 1740. But if the two of us go forward and separate them, we can't use our internal strength at the same time. Then the one who uses his internal strength first will be seriously injured. Lei Huming touched his bald head and said loudly. Wang Chang's face was uncertain. His internal strength was the highest, but he couldn't compete with Shui Yutiao and Ma Ming in the field. The problem was if he didn't do it. Who else could do it? Moreover, if he didn't do it, his title as the first in Wulin, and all the previous glory would be discounted. And this year's Luofeng Mountain Sword Conference would become a laughingstock in the future. Forget it. Wang Chong smiled bitterly in his heart and was about to go forward. Hero Wang. Lei Huming pulled him back. If you go forward, your life will be in danger. Wang Chong smiled and flicked his sleeve. A strong force bounced Lei Huming's hand away. He looked up and laughed. I know I can't do it. But if I don't do it, who can? If I don't go to hell, who will? Hero Wang. Everyone's faces were filled with reverence when they heard his name. Ha ha ha. Who said only you can be a good person? Can't other people do it? A hearty laugh rang out from behind the crowd. Everyone's vision blurred as they saw a tall and skinny young man flying over their heads like a wisp of smoke, landing on the empty ground in the middle of the field. Hey, you little kid, you're still wet behind the ears. How dare you be arrogant in front of Hero Wang? A gray-haired old man immediately scolded. However, when they saw Xiao Hua standing upright in the wind, Wang Chong and Su Bingyi's eyes lit up. They couldn't see through Xiao Hua's internal energy, but the lightness skill he displayed just now was far from what Su Bingyi could compare with. Xiaoxia, how should I address you? Wang Chong said with a fist salute. Xiao Hua didn't answer. He looked at Xue Yutiao and Ma Ming and said with a smile, this is not the time to chat. It's better for me to separate them first. Xiaoxia, let me do it. Wang Chong couldn't let Xiao Hua go forward. Hee, it's better if I come down. Xiao Hua smiled. His body moved slightly, and in the blink of an eye, he arrived in front of the two. He extended the middle finger of his right hand and flicked it between Xue Yutiao and Ma Ming's palms. The two immediately felt a suction force coming from their palms. Their palms involuntarily turned and slapped towards Xiao Hua's body. Xiaoxia dodge. When Wang Chong saw that Xiao Hua was rash and didn't know how to dodge, he sighed in his heart and hurriedly reminded him. Just as he spoke, Nanfeng Su Bingyi's body swayed, and he reached out to grab Xiao Hua's shoulder, wanting to pull him away. But just as Su Bingyi's hand fell on Xiao Hua's body, he heard two muffled sounds. Xue Yutiao and Ma Ming's palms hit Xiao Hua's body at the same time. Xue Yutiao and Ma Ming naturally knew the seriousness of the matter, but they couldn't speak just now. At this time, their internal force was transferred to Xiao Hua's body. Their faces were ugly. Not only were their meridians injured, but they also felt that their palms were like rotten wood. There was no trace of internal force to counterattack. Xiaoxia, the two were about to speak, but at the same time, a sweet and fishy smell came up. The two didn't dare to be negligent. They made a prompt decision and sat cross-legged, running their own internal force to adjust their breath. Wang Chong also stepped forward and reached out to grab Xiao Hua's wrist. He said, Xiaoxia, are you seriously injured? Let me see. How could Xiao Hua let him grab his wrist? He raised his hand and blocked it. He smiled and said, Thank you, Hero Wang. I'm not injured. Xiaoxia, it's better to use your internal force to take a look. Su Bingyi awkwardly took back his hand and took out a jade bottle. He said, This is a holy healing medicine that I got before. If Xiaoxia needs it, please take it. Xiao Hua shook his head. It's okay, it's okay. Benefactor Xiao. Zhang Xiang jumped out in time and shouted. Oh, Xiaoxia Xiao. Wang Chong heard and cupped his fist. Xiaoxia's internal force is strong. I really admire it. I don't know where Xiaoxia Zhao's sect is. Xiao Hua smiled and said, This is the reason why I came to Luofeng Mountain today. Wang Chong didn't understand and asked, What does Xiaoxia Xiao mean? Xiao Hua smiled and said, No other reason. I just came to compare notes with you heroes. Wang Chong smiled and said, Xiaoxia Zhao's internal force is superb. I'm afraid I can't compare. Hero Wang is joking. Xiao Hua smiled and cupped his fist towards Su Bingyi. I want to compete with Senior Su and Qinggong. Xiaoxia Xiao, I have seen your skill just now. I am ashamed of my inferiority. Su Bingyi said tactfully. You little brat, the 5 seniors have already used up a lot of internal force. If you compete with them now, you won't win with honor. The white-haired old man said again. Xiao Hua felt sick in his heart. He slightly tilted his head and coldly glanced at the old man. Ouch! The old man suddenly felt an aura like a mountain pressing down on him. His vision turned black, and he almost fell to the ground. If Xiaoxia Xiao only wants to compete in Qinggong, I can also do my best to accompany you. Su Bingyi obviously thought that Xiaohua wanted to use this opportunity to show his talent in Jianghu and said with a smile, "Please." Xiaohua didn't say much. He stretched out his hand and said, "Hero Su will be in front and I will be behind. If I can't catch up to Hero Su in the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, then I lose." Good. Xiao 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 is indeed a straightforward person. Su Bingyi was slightly taken aback. Then his figure flashed in the air, leaving behind an afterimage as he headed for the other parts of the Sunset Mountain. Good. Xiaohua praised and used ethereal steps to chase behind. However, the two figures ran around the entire peak of Sunset Mountain. Xiaohua's figure only hung behind Su Bingyi and didn't lead at all. It didn't look like a competition at all. Su Bingyi was also surprised. After waiting for an incense stick to burn, the two people landed on the field one after another. At this time, Su Bingyi's face was flushed and his chest was heaving up and down. He must have used up all his internal force. But when he looked at Xiaohua again, his complexion was normal, as if he had never used Qinggong. Admirable, admirable. Su Bingyi cupped his fists and said, "Xiao Xiao Zhao's Qinggong is astonishing and his style is restrained. Just now you gave me a lot of face. I'm afraid I can't compare to Xiao Xiao Xiao." Hiss. At this time, the people who had been looking down on Xiaohua's Qinggong in their hearts all sucked in a breath of cold air. "Hero Lei, can I ask for your advice?" Xiaohua didn't directly look for Wang Chong. Hehe, of course. Xiao 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 saved Heroine Water and Hero Ma and just defeated Hero Su. This match should be between you and me. Lei Hu smiled brightly and assumed a stance. "I am using external hard body skills. Xiao Xiao Xiao, be careful." "Ayo." Seeing Lei Hu's stance, Xiaohua's eyes lit up. This stance seems a bit familiar. Chapter 1741. Lei Huming's posture was familiar to Xiaohua. Xiaohua's eyes lit up, but he didn't answer. He swung his fists and followed up, fighting with Lei Huming. Everyone was shocked again. Even Wang Chong's eyes flashed with extraordinary splendor. He thought that Xiaohua's internal strength was profound, and that he was a rare youth in the martial arts world. But now he saw him fight with Lei Huming with open fists. His appearance was like a tiger stirring up the wind. A rare dual cultivator in the martial arts world? Which family's disciple is this? Wang Chong unconsciously swept his gaze over the crowd of martial artists at Sunset Peak. Xiaohua didn't care about the astonishment of the bystanders. At this moment, his heart was filled with joy. This Lei Huming's fist technique was indeed extraordinary. Xiaohua had concealed his cultivation, and only relied on his physical body and some fist techniques in his memory to fight with him. At first, he was repeatedly hit and fell into a disadvantage. But as Lei Huming's fist techniques appeared from time to time, Xiaohua's memories were awakened, and some familiar moves slowly flashed in his mind. As Xiaohua recalled his moves, Lei Huming was gradually equalized by Xiaohua, and then fell into a disadvantage again. It's really the martial arts world's new generation replacing the old. Lei Huming sighed in his heart. The wind from his fists began to weaken, as if it wanted to end. But how could Xiaohua let him succeed? One fist was faster than the other, and one move followed another. Every move was slightly different from what Lei Huming had seen, but every move was incomparably marvelous. I'll also let you experience this old man's power. Lei Huming also had a competitive spirit. The wind from his fists changed, and a set of incomplete fist techniques that he had learned in his early years was displayed. Xiaohua saw this and was even more overjoyed. The wind from his fists looked even more familiar. Xiaohua had just recalled some things, and even more moves came from his mind. "Watch I's moves!" Xiaohua shouted loudly. He pulled back his fists, and immediately after, a complete set of fist techniques was displayed. This fist technique was like mercury flowing down the ground, without any flaws. It forced Lei Huming to only be able to parry, without the slightest strength to counterattack. A warm current also appeared from the tip of Xiaohua's left foot, and along with the fist technique, it began to temper his bones. After the 108 moves of the fist technique were finished, Xiaohua once again followed the momentum of the finishing move and performed another round in reverse. Only then did he stop, his heart full of vigor. Big Dipper Fist. Ha ha ha, this fist technique is the Big Dipper Divine Fist. Xiaohua was ecstatic. When Lei Huming saw that Xiaohua had stopped, he cupped his fists and said with a bitter smile, Xiao xiao xiao, this set of fist techniques of yours is like an antelope hanging its horn, without a trace to be found. It's also like the Milky Way spilling out from beyond the heavens, without a trace. Even though this old man knows that you've executed it from beginning to end, I just can't find a flaw. Just this alone. This old man is not your match. Thanks for letting me win. Aha. Xiaohua was very carefree inside. How could he care about such a false reputation? He waved his hand and said, Hero Lei, we're only tied. There's no clear winner or loser between us. How can you say we're not opponents? Lei Huming glanced at Wang Chong and smiled bitterly. Xiao xiao xiao, it seems like this old man has to make a move. Wang Chong said with a smile. Even though we've already fought here for many days and the challengers have already been defeated, since Xiao 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 can consecutively defeat the three of us, this old man is convinced that you're the world's #1. No need. Xiaohua waved his hand and said. This one only wants to ask Hero Wang a question. As for the matter of the battle, there's no need to mention it. Wang Chong asked curiously, What's the matter? Xiao xiao xiao, please speak. The fist technique that this one used just now, I wonder if Hero Wang has seen it before? After Xiaohua finished speaking, he looked at Wang Chong expectantly. Wang Chong's eyes flashed with a trace of confusion. He shook his head and said, This old man has never seen the fist technique that Xiao 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 used. It seems similar to Hero Lei's fist technique, but it's completely different. Forgive this old man for not recognizing it. Sai, forget it. Xiaohua looked at the crowd and said loudly, Which hero has seen this fist technique before? The crowd murmured, but no one answered. Forget it, Hero Wang, this one will take his leave. Xiaohua cupped his hands and was about to leave. Where is Xiao 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 going? Wang Chong asked curiously. Xiao 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 still has a battle to fight. It's fine if you don't want to fight. This one just wanted to come here to find his master. Xiaohua was somewhat disinterested. A trace of anger appeared on Wang Chong's face. He was so angry that he laughed and said, Xiao xiao xiao, this old man knows that your martial arts are powerful, and I'm afraid that you're the world's #1. However, we are currently at the Luofeng Mountain Sword Conference. If you didn't come, then so be it. Since you're here, then let's fight to the end. If you turn around and leave like this, where will this old man's face be? Where will this world's hero's face be? How will we establish ourselves in the world of Jianghu in the future? Oh, that's right. Xiaohua suddenly realized. He bowed and said, Many thanks for senior's reprimand. This junior understands. This is my fault. As he spoke, Xiaohua took a stance and used the fist of the North Star. Very good. Wang Chong's face revealed a gratified expression. His body floated. He spread out his palms and used the 9 yin and 9 yang internal energy. Although Wang Chong's martial arts were high, he was still only a Xiantian master. Compared to Xiaohua, he was still lacking. Although Xiaohua only used the fist of the North Star, his skin was rough and his flesh was thick. How could Wang Chong's internal energy injure him? Xiaohua fought with him for a while, but he didn't seem to recall anything. He casually raised his shoulder, and like a street brawl, his shoulder landed on Wang Chong's chest. This move was very ingenious. It dodged Wang Chong's palms. Wang Chong only felt an unparalleled force coming towards him, as if a huge rock was pressing down on him. No matter how he circulated his internal energy, he was unable to resist. Wang Chong could only hurriedly retreat. He wanted to disperse this force. Unfortunately, this force was too strong. Wang Chong lost his balance and fell to the ground. Wang Chong was very anxious, but he immediately thought of a solution. He stretched out his hand, one hand supporting himself on the ground, the other hand casually grabbing the broken stones on the ground. He circulated his internal energy and threw them behind him. He even shouted, "Look at my hidden weapon!" Although the rocks and other objects Wang Chong threw over were extremely powerful and comparable to crossbows, They were not worth mentioning in Xiaohua's eyes. Xiaohua smiled and raised his hand, about to use his strength to smash them down. However, when he swept his gaze over, he saw that there was a small green bottle in the middle of the rocks. There was a tightly sealed stopper at the top of the bottle, and there were some exquisite dark green leaf-shaped patterns on the body of the bottle. What is this? It looks very strange. Xiaohua thought, and stretched out his hand to grab it. But just as he stretched out his hand, the green bottle suddenly fell. With a paw sound, it actually disappeared from the ground. Ah? Xiaohua was greatly alarmed. He quickly released his divine sense and swept it towards the place where the bottle disappeared. Unfortunately, the bottle disappeared like a ghost. There was no trace of it. Even if Xiaohua grabbed the broken stones again and released his Buddhist sense, he still did not find anything. Strange, could it be some kind of divine object? Xiaohua secretly sighed. At this time there was a burst of thunderous cheers on Sunset Peak. When Xiaohua came back to his senses, he saw that everyone was actually cheering for him. Hee hee, Xiao Xiao Xiao, you are indeed a dragon among men. Wang Chong jumped up from the ground and laughed. This old man still has one last flying sword technique. If Xiao 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 can solve it, this old man's title of number 1 in the martial arts world will fall to Xiao Xiao Xiao. When Xiaohua saw the mysterious bottle disappear, he felt somewhat disappointed. He knew that he was not on the same side as Wang Chong and the others. It was useless to stay here any longer. Thus he cupped his hands and said, Hero Wang's internal strength is profound. This one is not your opponent. Then he raised his head and shouted, Heroes present, which one of you has seen this Xiao before? Unfortunately, other than envy, jealousy, and enthusiasm in everyone's eyes, no one answered. Even if Xiaohua shouted 3 times in a row. Just as Xiaohua sighed and was about to leave, a rough voice came from the mountain path. I know who you are. Xiaohua was overjoyed at first, but when his divine sense swept over, his face turned from joy to anger. The voice said again, You are the frog at the bottom of the well who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. After practicing martial arts for a few days, you think you are number 1 in the world. Who are you? Xiaohua did not speak, but Wang Chong shouted with a cold face. I am the person who came to teach you the immensity of heaven and earth. I will let you know what a true divine ability is. As the voice spoke, it walked out from the mountain path. Ah? When everyone saw the owner of the voice, they could not help but cry out in shock. They saw a large tiger with white eyes and a white forehead coming out from the mountain path. This tiger seemed to be suspended in the air, and on top of the tiger sat a pale old man. This old man's cultivation was around the 7th layer of qi refining. His face was very kind, and his hair and beard were snow white. However, his kind face could not hide the disdain and contempt in his eyes. What shocked everyone the most was that the old man was holding a few bloody heads in his hand. One of them was the burly man Xiaohua saw at the bottom of the mountain. Taoist Yuna, where did you come from? Although the people of Jianghu were chivalrous, they also had the courage to fight. A few of the heroes standing on the periphery waved the weapons in their hands and blocked in front of the old man. They angrily shouted, This is the location of the Luofeng Mountain Sword Conference. How can you trespass into Setting Sun Mountain and kill our mountain guards? Ha ha ha, you are just a group of self-righteous pitiful worms, the old man sneered, and used his cold eyes to sweep the crowd. He casually clapped his hands and threw out several fireball talismans. Damn! Xiaohua was greatly alarmed. He hurriedly slapped his forehead, wanting to send out his fastest flying sword. However, he was still far away. Before his flying sword could fly out, he heard a series of rumbling sounds. Those fireball talismans had already smashed into the bodies of those brave men blocking in front of the old man. Ah! Several miserable screams sounded. Needless to say, these people were all killed by the fireballs. Their broken bodies and limbs flew all over the ground. To be continued. Chapter 1742. Seeing several people being killed by this immortal-like old man with a raise of his hand, the surrounding people were shocked and involuntarily took a few steps back, creating an empty space. Sir, is the legendary immortal? Seeing this, Wang Chong's face was extremely angry, but he still asked very carefully. Hee, I am the immortal you all speak of. The old man smiled as he urged the tiger to slowly walk into the field. The surrounding people hurriedly made a wide path for him. Since you are an immortal, then don't lower yourself to the same level as us mortals. The corpses in the hands of immortals are all living people with flesh and blood. How can immortals take people's lives so easily? Wang Chong said forcefully. And just now several fellow martial artists were just asking about the origin of immortals, yet they were killed by immortals. Good. Xiaohua narrowed his eyes and almost gave Wang Chong a thumbs up. A man should have some fears and some fears. Under justice, even the strong have to be questioned. Ha ha ha, in this immortal's eyes, you all are just ants. What is wrong with this immortal casually crushing a few of you? The old man still smiled as he replied, then looked at Xiaohua. Just now I heard you shout loudly. You have the highest martial arts here? Without waiting for Xiaohua to speak, Wang Chong hurriedly said. This old man is Yin Yang, the #1 person in the martial arts world. Xiaoxia just lost a challenge. Humph, since it's not you, then what are you howling for? Finished speaking, he slapped his hand and took out a flying sword talisman from his storage bag. Seeing an old Qi refining stage 7 cultivator showing off in front of him, Xiaohua only sneered and raised his hand again. Since you know this old man is the #1 person in the martial arts world, does a mortal want to teach me? Wang Chong quickly walked to the chair he was sitting on and picked up a long sword from it, coldly looking at the old man. He just you? The old man's mouth showed disdain. His hand formed a seal and urged his magic power. The flying sword talisman flew into the air and turned into a flying sword, floating in the air. When Wang Chong saw this, he felt bitter in his mouth. He hurriedly activated the genuine qi in his body. With the sound of a sword flew out of the scabbard in his hand like a swimming dragon. It also flew into the air. Haha, I didn't expect you to know about flying swords too. The old man smiled and pointed with his finger. The flying sword talisman streaked across the sky and flew towards Wang Chong's flying sword. Wang Chong also tried his best to circulate his inner energy. His flying sword also flew towards the old man shakily. Ka! With a light sound, the flying sword talisman cut the sword into two. Haha, the old man laughed wantonly. You call this a flying sword? As he spoke, he pointed his finger again, and the flying sword talisman shot towards Wang Chong's throat like a bolt of lightning. Sigh, forget it. Sigh. Wang Chong knew that he couldn't escape in time, so he closed his eyes and sighed. Humph, you call this a flying sword? Just as Wang Chong was in despair, Xiaohua's voice sounded. Xiaohua opened his mouth, and a small green and red sword chased after the flying sword talisman. This small sword was very strange. It grew with the wind and in an instant, it was a foot long. With a qi sound, the Dream Slayer caught up to the flying sword talisman and cut it into 2 pieces. Which sect are you from? The old man immediately shouted. I am Bai Ming of the Spirit Husbandry sect. I don't care which sect you are from. Since you take others to be ants, little do you know that you're similarly an ant in the eyes of this young master. Xiaohua sneered, and he didn't pay the slightest attention to the old man's begging for mercy as he urged his flying sword to stab towards Bai Ming. Bai Ming felt his heart palpitate and his expression changed. He didn't dare to be careless. He threw away the head in his hand and slapped his storage bag, taking out several yellow talismans. At the same time, he slapped the big tiger under him. The big tiger roared and pounced toward Xiaohua. A fishy wind rose. You're courting death. How could Xiaohua care about the man and the tiger? The Dream Slayer turned into 2 in the air. One stabbed at Bai Ming and the other at the big tiger. Let's go. Bai Ming held back the indescribable fear in his heart. He flicked the yellow talisman in his hand, and several fireballs appeared to block the flying sword. He used a flying talisman on himself, and urged his magic power to escape. Rumble! The fireball talisman exploded. But how could the fireballs block the Dream Slayer? The Dream Slayer's cold light pierced through the flames, and went straight for Bai Ming. Bai Ming saw the Dream Slayer coming and waved his hand again. An ice talisman blocked it. However, the Dream Slayer shook again, and another identical flying sword flew out. When Bai Ming's body flew up about 10 feet, the flying sword stabbed at his throat. "Fellow, please spare me," Bai Ming was shocked. His godlike face was distorted in fear. He shouted, "I have a secret. I will tell you now, please secret." Xiaohua's heart skipped a beat. However, when he thought of the burly man who warned him 2 hours ago at the foot of Sunset Mountain, Xiaohua's dream slayer paused for a moment and swept past Bai Ming's throat. Bai Ming's throat flickered with light. However, under the dream slayer, it couldn't resist at all and was immediately annihilated. At the same time, the big tiger didn't even have the strength of a first-rank spirit beast. Naturally, it couldn't resist the dream slayer. The sword flashed and passed through the white spot on its forehead. After a loud roar, it fell to the ground. Effortlessly, a 7th-layer Qi refining cultivator and his spirit beast were annihilated by Xiaohua with a wave of his hand. The green-red dream slayer circled around Sunset Mountain and turned into another. Although the dream slayer didn't target the men of Jianghu, the boundless karma contained in the sword was so powerful that even cultivators would find it difficult to resist. These people who only knew martial arts felt that the end of the world had come. Seeing the dream slayer being swallowed by Xiaohua, the pressure in everyone's souls disappeared. At this time they didn't know how to face Xiaohua. "Xiao, spiritual master, thank you for saving my life," Wang Chong shouted, and was about to kneel on the ground. Wang Chong's face was deathly pale. It was obvious that he was heavily injured from using the flying sword. However, there was a trace of redness on his face. It should be due to the excitement of facing Xiaohua, the immortal they called Xiaohua. How could Xiaohua let him kneel? He waved his hand and stopped him with a smile. "Hero Wang, there's no need to be so courteous. You and I have become friends through martial arts. Please rise, please rise. Spiritual Master Xiao, we thank Senior Immortal for saving our lives." Lei Huming and Su Bingyi also knelt on the ground. Similarly, everyone else present also knelt on the ground. They knew that with the ruthlessness of Bai Ming's attack just now, if it weren't for Xiaohua, they wouldn't have been able to survive. "AI, forget it." Xiaohua looked at this group of hot-blooded and chivalrous mortals. He clapped his hands and took out a jade bottle, throwing it into Wang Chong's hands. "Your inner strength has succeeded, but your meridians have been damaged. Your lifespan shouldn't be far. This is my Taoist's marrow cleansing pill. It should be useful for you." Chapter 1743. Soon after, Xiaohua looked around and saw the people kneeling on the ground. He smiled and said, "It's fate that brought us together. This poor Taoist doesn't have anything good, so these pills are for everyone. I hope that everyone will remember the word chivalrous, and always put kindness first. Don't bully the weak because you're strong." With that, he waved his hand and the remaining pills of the lowest level were divided into several portions. He pointed his finger, and the pills flew out like a fairy scattering flowers. There was one in front of everyone. "Thank you, Taoist Xiao." Everyone was overjoyed and shouted in unison. Their voices shook the entire Sunset Peak. "I'm leaving." Xiaohua smiled and shouted in a low voice. At the same time, he waved his hand and took away the storage pouch and a spirit storage pouch on Bai Ming's waist. The big tiger's corpse was also put into the storage pouch. When Xiaohua's figure flew into the air, another strand of true samadhi fire fell on Bai Ming's corpse. In a short moment, it was completely burned. "Farewell, Taoist Xiao." Everyone led by Wang Chong cupped their hands and bowed deeply in the direction Xiaohua flew away. Only after Xiaohua's figure had disappeared for a long time did Wang Chong and the others withdraw their gazes. Wang Chong looked at the crowd and said loudly, "Fellow willing friends, we have always defeated others with martial strength. Who hasn't done anything outrageous before? Even this old man doesn't dare to say that everything I do is based on my own benevolence, and that kindness is the most important thing. Now that we have met Taoist Xiao, it is a great opportunity for us. It is also the time for us to reflect and find a new path. In the future, we will follow Taoist Xiao's instructions and help the weak. We will walk the Jianghu with chivalry. We will listen to Taoist Wang's instructions and follow Taoist Xiao's instructions. Everyone shouted in unison. Good. We have received Daoist Zhao's kindness. This Luofeng Mountain Sword Conference is really perfect. Wang Chong held the jade bottle given by Xiao Hua and said, "We don't need to go down the mountain. First, we will take the pills given by Daoist Zhao in case there is an accident. Before I take the pills, I have to make a heart oath that I will follow Daoist Zhao's example and follow Daoist Zhao's good deeds. I hope that everyone in Jianghu will also make a heart oath." Good. We will follow. At this moment, everyone's blood was boiling. How could they not follow? Even if he had objections in his heart, he probably wouldn't disobey. Wang Chong distributed the medicinal pills in the jade bottle to Lei Huming and the others. Zhang Xuyang was next to the 5 of them, and since there were no medicinal pills in front of him, Wang Chong naturally gave him a portion of the medicinal pills. After everyone had made their heart oaths, they took the pills on the spot and adjusted their internal energy. Xiao Hua had already flown far away. After doing a good deed, his mood was always very happy. However, Xiao Hua still felt some pity for the life of that burly man. That burly man looked very fierce, but his heart was quite kind. Moreover, Wang Chong and the others gave Xiao Hua a very good impression, so he gave them the pills that he didn't need. Of course, Xiao Hua also had a sense of propriety. These pills would only be beneficial to them and would not harm them. And then what is the secret that Bai Ming spoke of? Xiao Hua's mind slightly moved. It's a pity that he acted ruthlessly. As a cultivator, although he has heaven-defying divine abilities, he still has to treat others kindly. Not to mention Jianghu people with internal energy, even children without the strength to truss a chicken have to smile. A secret exchanged with the lives of these people. This young master disdains it beneath contempt. Hee, it's a pity that this young master doesn't know any soul-searching techniques, otherwise, I could use it on this guy. Xiao Hua's mouth hung a cold smile. This guy is so fierce, who knows how many vengeful souls he has on his hands. If I used the soul-searching technique on him, even the heavens would be happy. At this moment, an extremely comfortable feeling suddenly came from the Buddha's saraira. Xiao Hua couldn't help but be greatly alarmed. He didn't dare to let his imagination run wild, and immediately descended from the sky, looking for a secret place to investigate. When Xiao Hua inspected the Buddha's heart of the Buddha's saraira, he couldn't help but be dumbstruck. Previously, this Buddha's heart had some brilliance similar to fire, but this brilliance was different in brightness and darkness, and the color was also different. But now, this brilliance was more than 100 times more. Moreover, it was already divided into 9 colors, like a cluster of lively Buddha's fire. The dream execution, cloud-suppressing seal, the 8 sword pills, and the shabby small bucket that was thrown to the side were all enveloped by the Buddha's fire. What surprised Xiao Hua the most was that at the root of the Buddha's fire, there was actually a strand of faintly discernible golden thread. Why did the immeasurable karmic fire suddenly change so much? Xiao Hua sat cross-legged, pinched his chin, and was rather puzzled. Moreover, what is this golden thread? This golden thread seems to be within the immeasurable karmic fire, but it also doesn't seem to be within it. It should have just been formed, right? Alas, I'm afraid that if I have time in the future, I'll have to make a trip to the Buddhist sect's ruins. I don't know if this immeasurable karmic fire is a good thing or not. It's not a good thing to always be in the Buddha's saraira. I need to find a proper way to thoroughly understand the secrets of the Buddhist sect. Xiao Hua thought to himself, and then thought for a long time. He didn't find anything useful from the exquisite leaf scripture, so Xiao Hua could only fly out from the hidden place, and continue to fly towards the west. However, Xiao Hua didn't know that the formation of this immeasurable karmic fire was related to specific karma, and not related to the cultivator's cultivation. Xiao Hua saving a 9th layer qi refining cultivator was the same as saving an ordinary person, and the karma of killing an early stage foundation establishment cultivator was also the same as killing an ordinary person. He just saved so many Wulin people from Bai Ming's hands. How could this kind of good karma be small? Moreover, Xiao Hua's good deeds also affected these powerful heroes in the Wulin, and their good deeds were also Xiao Hua's karma. This kind of karma had a huge impact. In particular, Wang Chong was afraid that the medicinal pills given by Xiaohua would make others do bad things, so he actually made everyone swear a heart oath. What was this heart oath? It was the condensation of one's thoughts. Wang Chong also wanted everyone to follow Xiaohua's example, and Xiaohua was an immortal in everyone's eyes, so this was the condensation of one's beliefs. Under these coincidences, under the effect of Xiaohua's Buddhist sex karma, a strand of golden thread was born in his Buddhist heart. As for what the golden thread was, Xiaohua would probably only know after arriving at the Buddhist sex ruins. After flying for a few more hours, Xiaohua saw that they were already far away from Luofeng Mountain, and the sky was also bright. Xiaohua clapped his hand, and a thunder sound transmitting talisman was sent out. The yellow talisman flew into the air, and with the sound of thunder, it actually flew towards the north? Why is that? Xiaohua was a bit puzzled. Should we wait here for a while? Xiaohua still remembered the agreement with Sun Shu and the others. However, after waiting for only the time it takes to burn an incense stick, he didn't see Sun Shu and the others coming. Instead, a transmission talisman was sent over, and there were only 4 short words in the transmission talisman. Quickly come and help. Xiaohua was shocked. Sun Shu's voice in the transmission talisman was very panicked. Obviously, they were in a critical moment. Xiaohua didn't dare to be negligent. He used the awakening thunder escape. After flying a few hundred li to the north, he actually heard bursts of thunder, and the sound of fireballs exploding in the distant mountain forest. Xiaohua's Buddhist awareness swept over, and he unconsciously frowned. He saw that in the valley between 2 mountain ranges, Sun Shu and the other 2 were surrounded by 6 cultivators who were also at the 12th layer of qi refining. The 6 cultivators were wearing the same attire, and they took turns to attack the 3 of them. Among them, there were also high-grade yellow talismans like fireball talismans thrown out. Looking at Sun Shu and the other 2, Sun Shu's thunder lock and Kuanfian's thunder trapping bead were both raised above their heads, and a defensive brilliance protected them. Qian Diheng's body was suffused with a faint brilliance. Obviously, it was his defensive magic treasure. Under the attack of so many magic treasures, the defensive brilliance had already dimmed a lot. Moreover, Sun Shu and the others' attacks were also barely enough. The fireball talismans and icicle talismans were also thrown out in the gaps of the defense. They were far from being a threat to the other 3. What surprised Xiaohua the most was that in the valley, other than the 3 disciples of the Imperial Thunder Sect and the 6 enemy disciples, there was also a centipede-like spiritual insect flying in the air. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws, and flew to Qian Diheng's side to attack from time to time. Qian Diheng's defensive magic treasure was very powerful, but every time the centipede flew in front of the brilliance, it would shoot out sticky black water from its body. This black water was obviously very corrosive, and could always corrode the brilliance of the magic treasure a little. Damn it! Could these 6 cultivators be from the spirit husbandry sect? Xiaohua instantly thought of the spirit husbandry sects by Ming that he met last night. There's also the corpse of a spiritual beast over there. Xiaohua's Buddhist consciousness could see that not far from where the 9 people were fighting, there was the corpse of a monster that was 10 feet in size. This monster looked like a rhinoceros, and there was a single horn on its head that pierced into the stone wall at an angle, hanging the entire corpse on the stone wall. The back of the corpse was charred black, and it was obviously killed by a thunder attribute magic treasure. Xiaohua's Buddhist consciousness scanned the corpse, and he understood the reason in his heart. At this moment, a few spiritual wills swept over from the valley, and it must be the disciples of the spirit husbandry sect who were alerted. Thus, Xiaohua's lips curled into a cold smile, and his body suddenly descended, burrowing into the ground. Ha! In the valley, a disciple of the spirit husbandry sect laughed loudly. Fellow Taoists from the Imperial Thunder Sect, there's no need to struggle anymore. It's all useless. Look at how long you've been waiting for your message talisman, and you still haven't seen your fellow disciples coming over. I'm afraid they've already escaped when they saw us here, right? Pooey, when Sun Shu heard this, she was already furious and she spat. You little thieves from the spirit husbandry sect. You're usually very respectful, and in front of the Imperial Thunder Sect, you're as obedient as a grandson. Why did you change your face the moment you got the chance? If I knew this, I would have. When Sun Shu was distracted, her thunderlock immediately couldn't hold on any longer. The defensive light flashed, and the entire thunderlock seemed like it was going to fall from mid-air. The spirit husbandry sex cultivators were obviously trying to distract her, and when they saw this, a cultivator immediately separated from Qian Diheng's side. He pointed his finger, and a cone-shaped magic treasure pierced the thunder lock. If you like this work, you're welcome to vote for it at Qidian.com. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.